Hey, this is editing mode Noah, and I'm just letting you guys know we stopped recording this. This is the second part of a recording that we stopped midway. The recording for Heavensward was a little fucky, so we have no real proper intro. Just letting you know, this is our funky little Heavensward podcast, or it's our little Final Fantasy XIV podcast, and I'm just letting you guys know we start just mid-recording right into it post vault. Yeah, please enjoy. Okay, so that was the vault. Vault was good. Vault was good. Everything up to the vault was really good. I think that, I think that outside of the Raban thing, I think the way tension is established is really good. I think if Raban's thing wasn't in there, this would actually be a perfect tension arc, where, you know, we get into it, high tension, false sense of security, high tension again with Artois Rel. Unfortunately, Raban's thing was right after that really high tension thing, and I blocked it out of my mind. But, you know, lowering of tension after meeting Yzael, lowering of tension during the camping trip, high tension with the Aerie, and then I would say I thought that the Aerie was going to be high tension, and then we go into like a low tension arc, like be lulled again after going back to Ishgard. But no, we went even higher tension, which was good. So I was like, oh shit, climax, right? Like the climax of the story is coming soon, which is true. It is level 57. We immediately like we get this sense of tension. We're like, oh, let's go to Aziz La. We can't fucking go to Aziz La. Shit. So we have to in story.
We have to fuck around. We have to fuck around in a different place for
now,
a while. It's kind of...
Textually, it makes sense. Textually, the whole story makes sense. Textually, there is a reason to do everything. I'm never going to be like, oh, it doesn't make sense. But emotionally, it makes no fucking sense. Emotionally, we have to go meet Matoya. We get Y'shtola back, which is good. We get Y'shtola back around this time. I don't remember specifically how we get her, but we do get her back before end of 3.0. So we get Y'shtola back, which was nice. Because she's level-headed and she can center us again. The way we got her back was we had to go to the fucking Forelands. We had to fucking meet with Matoya. All of that was stupid. I love Matoya. She's a great character, but it was stupid. Shit with the goblins, it sucked. Everything in the Dravenian, or not before, the hinterlands.
It was the hinterland stuff was kind of just there to introduce
Idleshire, some of the Charlene concepts, set up some of the Minfilia stuff.
There was so much shit in Heavensward that doesn't need to
It didn't need to be there. Because rather than okay, it's too late in the story to lull us into a false sense of security. We've dealt with Ascians. We've dealt with Thordan. We've dealt with dragons.
Haurchefant
is fucking dead. Ishgard is in disarray. The political leaders of Ishgard are literally fucking gone. So we have to think about that, you know. Yzael just fucks off. She's just not part of the story for this part. I'm pretty sure Estinian fucks off too. So, the two characters who we've spent all this time building around, they just fuck off. Now, granted, the characters that we stay with, you know, Y'shtola, Alphinaud, we know these guys. And it's good because Alphinaud, throughout all of this, Alphinaud is getting character development. He's becoming humbled through seeing Estinian Yzael, and he becomes further humbled, you know, going back to going to Idleshire. We learn a little bit about what happened to the old Charlians, and while that's neat, tonally, it's just fucking awful.
Yeah, it is.
The hinterlands the hinterlands are fucking beautiful. This is bad. This is actually bad because it's this beautiful, serene mountain vista. And I love it. It's gorgeous. Charlian is gorgeous. It has the stained glass. It has the little patterned stone pathways. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Fucking awful for the tone. Atrocious.
Yeah, I agree.
Bro, my best friend just died.
This was actually a contemporary critique back in the day. I remember it when people would complain that why are we doing this when Haurchefant just fucking died?
Yeah, and okay, when people say this about Stormblood, right? When people say this about Kugane, I'm like, no, that's stupid, because I actually think us going to Kugane makes a lot of sense. They could have done it better. Everything can be done better. I think even the best parts of the story could be done better. There's always room for improvement. However, it wasn't stupid in Stormblood. It was fucking stupid in Heavensward. And when people talk about Heavensward, obviously they remember the good parts. They don't talk about this part. They talk about the funny banter between Y'shtola and Matoya.
This is the part that people don't like to talk about because the fact that people don't talk about it is a little bit damning. Damning proof that it's kind of bad.
Yeah, it's just oh God, it was bad. Again, if it was like, if it was in patches, or if they somehow segmented it like before the tension arc somehow, without making it as egregious as Raban, I would enjoy it, right? I would really enjoy it. Like somehow, like if somehow, like the forelands and the hinterlands were swapped, and the part that we call the hinterlands were the forelands, and we had to like meet Matoya and Y'shtola then, and like, you know, this was during the camping trip. Like maybe it wouldn't be as bad. Maybe none of this would be as bad if it was all during the camping trip, right?
Yeah, maybe not.
Yeah, and like the beast tribe was like the kobolds instead. I don't know I don't know how I'd rewrite it solidly, but having such a high tension thing happen and then dropping the ball like this, and also having every major player except Alphino go off screen, because Matoya is new and Y'shtola is reintroduced. The only like I mean, it does some cool stuff, but the only important thing it does tonally is tell us that not our friends might not all be dead. However, I think they could have saved that for the patches. They could have, like, I know it's strange to be like,
they definitely could
yeah,
have,
like they could have brought Y'shtola back in 3.1 and Thancred in 3.2.
No, because I remember Heavensward Patches stories being like, you know, kind of, a few of them were a little bit like lacking content.
Yeah.
Lacking story.
Oh my god,
very,
yeah, like
3.2
is so short.
Yeah. A lot of them were lacking stuff that honestly didn't, like, could have been taken from the Heavensward main story and put there instead, and it would have been both of them better.
Yeah, it's just like some bullshit like lore reasons that we need to go there anyways, and then we go to Azizla, which is the last region, and it's this like cool like Allegan like floating fortress. Like conceptually it's really, both of these areas are gorgeous. This game is consistently gorgeous. Music is great.
Yeah.
So we go to Azizla, and so my little story about Azizla is that Azizla visually reminds me of I don't remember which level it was in terms of like chronologically, but it's the first level you play as the Arbiter in Halo 2, which is one of my favorite games of all time. And one of the games that actually got me into gaming. So I have some like nostalgia. Like I felt something very nostalgic being up there with like all the orange clouds and everything and the like high tech. It was really cool. But Izel dies. That's the big thing.
Yeah.
Regula has like the big ship and the Garleans are like fighting us, and she turns into Shiva and she fucking dies. She has not been a part of the story this whole time. Like at least Estinian made appearances. She's not been part of this whole story. She dies. The scene is so poorly done. The colors are awful. It's hard to keep track of what's going on screen. The actual animations are so bad. And you're not even sure she's dead until the characters confirm it after the cutscene.
There's something else that I thought was funny, which was a Yuzel thing, but like when you face Ravana, she like first tries to take him on by herself.
Yeah.
Right? You don't actually team up with her.
Yeah.
She first decides to take him on by herself, and you get this really funny cutscene of her getting her fucking ass handed to her.
Yeah, it was funny. They flirted a little bit, and I was like, woo.
Yeah, like this. Yeah, like this one. That was like the good Yuzel cutscene. This one is the bad Yuzel cutscene.
Yeah, I thought that the animation of I did think her falling through the sky, like her riding in on Race Villiger's back, that was cool. Her falling through the sky, that was like so badass. That was so incredibly badass. That shot of her falling through the sky and pulling out the ice. That was like, too, yeah. I said pulling out the ass because this feels like it was pulled out of someone's ass. It was so,
yeah.
But it was so badass. Like the upside down shot of her and then she closed her eyes. I remember I saw fan art of that. It was really beautiful, done by like someone who does like
it's
manga.
Good.
So it was really nice.
It was good. I like that was the good part of the scene, but I remember the part where she like freezes the engines or whatever.
It was stupid, and then like the explosions were so poorly animated. Like the cool monster.
This is Heavensward stuff, though. Honestly, like this is like that's their budget. That was their budget.
But it was bad. Like it was bad. It was bad. Like Izel's death deserved a little more respect than that, considering how good of a character she was. But the thing is like her character arc isn't complete. Like, she realized the bad thing. And I guess the implication is, oh, she's gonna sacrifice herself to save everyone because she's a bad guy now. She's a good guy, you know, retribution through death. But I think that's stupid.
Yeah. Which a lot of female villains get.
A lot of female villains. I wouldn't agree, because Yotsuyu and spoiler character were never... They didn't get retribution. Like, they were never forgiven for their sins. Izel was. Izel was forgiven by the narrative for her sins. Yotsuyu and this other character were not. Like, they're still, like, presented as evil afterwards. When people, like, talk about dying for a redemption arc, I think Izel is a good example, but Yotsuyu and other character are not. Because, you know.
I guess it's a little bit... It's, like, the difference between, like... redemption and like narrative karma.
Yeah.
Plot justice.
But I think it's stupid because A, the shit with the cultists was setting up that she would get redeemed. And if this was her redemption, it's an awful redemption because Izael, when we meet her, again, Oblivion is about wanting to kill yourself. It's about wanting to commit suicide. She has a martyr complex throughout the whole series. That's why she identifies with Shiva. The world-shattering revelation is she is not Shiva. Those visions were false. They were placed inside her head, this and that. So her world-shattering revelation is that this identity of a martyr that she's taken on to further a cause is abjectly false, right? And then she martyrs herself. Like, wow, way to undo the arc you were setting up. Like, when people say she's, like, the most developed character, I'm like, no, they had, like, the beginning and the middle of a character arc, and then they dropped the ball and just killed her, and they made her regress in killing her. Like, it undoes all the character development they were setting up for. I've said before, living is the hardest thing. And if Izael was forced to face the consequences of her actions...
Right. I think that was why it was so meaningful that Grahatia did not die at the end of Shadowbringers.
Yeah. I really like that Graha didn't die. But even if he had died, like, I feel worse about Izael's because Izael's is redemption through death. And Graha would have never... He didn't have anything he needed to be redeemed over. I know some people...
He didn't have anything he needed to redeem. He just wanted to heroically die, I guess.
Yeah, the reason that him dying, like with Izael dying, the reason it's bad is because that's like telling the suicidal person, yes, kill yourself. Good. Like that's what it is.
It's like it wouldn't make sense for a story either, because what makes sense more for a story is that like so many people, like the people put their legacies into him, like the bad end, like Ironworks people put their legacies in him. They wanted him to have a good life.
Yeah, I agree.
That, like now he's living his like good end life, which is good. Like it's good.
But Izael's pisses me off more, I guess, because it actually happened.
Right. Yeah.
It's fucking bad. It's really fucking bad. It's really fucking bad. It's really fucking bad. Oh my god, I'm so angry. Okay, so
we're getting mean about
the Estinian
now. I think a lot of people would agree with you here, though.
Okay, so the Estinian part, where he's not like dramatic about the Horace Vilgar reveal, in the moment, it's not bad. But it comes back here. You know why? Because everyone's like, okay, so that cutscene happens. Izael dies in cutscene. It's very funny, like, it's actually, like, funny. The animations are so bad it's funny. It's almost as funny as Cherubert rotating. Like, it's fucking hilarious. Considering what it's supposed to be. So I was like, wait, okay, so we're gonna see her. And then we get off, and then everyone's like, wow, Izael died. And then Estinian's like, and I'm like, okay, this is really funny, because this means Estinian...
She what?
He was just like, like, you just mumble. Like, he's just like, oh, man, that sucks. That shit sucks. Like, just heard about Izael dying. That shit sucks. Like...
That shit sucks.
And then you get out of cutscene, and this is the most tonal whiplash I've felt playing this whole game, aside from Wurlit. Wurlit is a special case. This is the biggest tonal whiplash I felt in all of MSQ. So there's area music, and then there's aetherite music, rest stop music, I will say.
Yeah.
And the rest stop music for this portion of the story is this fucking bagpipe tune.
It's the same as the other parts.
Yes. It's the same as in the hinterlands.
Yeah.
And Dravania all has the same aether. And so it's like this bagpipe, like, like as soon as you get out of cutscene. I'm gonna replace what I said with like the actual sound.
Yeah.
It was so bad because it's like this like majestic bagpipe music. After we were like, wow, Izael died. Like,
also it's Az's Law, which doesn't like you don't really associate that with bagpipes.
Like the tonal whiplash is intense. Because in Stormblood and Shadowbringers, when something bad happens in a cutscene, they just cut out the area music until you're like ready to leave, so you can process the event. Well, we don't even get a moment to mourn. Like the thing is like,
oh yeah, Izael kind of gets like a no fanfare.
Like
death.
Okay. With Harshavon's death, and Harshavon's death has this problem too. You zone back into Ishgard, but the thing is that the Ishgard music is quiet and contemplative. So
yeah.
even if they kept the music just coincidentally happens to fit. The music it makes me want to do a fucking jig. It makes me want to take my sheep out for a walk. I don't know what Scottish people do.
I think you're right. I think this is probably why her death didn't really hit me emotionally, because all this shit happens after.
Yeah, it's like, oh.
Also, I wasn't sure if she was dead either.
Yeah, and then it was like, oh, we have to go deal with the fucking Garleans. Why are the Garleans here? Oh my, we totally swept over Bismarck. Oh my god, Bismarck also happens, like, after this. Like, I don't remember.
Bismarck happens before
No,
this.
Bismarck happens after the vault.
Yeah,
it just happens because it's just on the fucking checklist. Like, it happens because
we need 2 primals and expansion.
Well, okay, so like Bismarck happens. Bismarck is kind of cool because if you wipe, like they actually
you get a bad
yeah, it's really cool, and I wish they did that more.
No, it's specifically if you wipe because the island does.
Yeah. And
if you wipe just by normal, like, being bad,
it's nice because Sid's there, and I'm like, Sid, please let me rest my head against your tits. I miss Harshafant.
I like that cutscene because if you get the bad end, like the wool is like stooped over, like looking battered, and then you get roared by Bismarck.
Yeah,
it's War Day.
Yeah,
everyone.
we're recording this on 8/8. Hey. Regardless of when you hear it. But that happened, and then Varys shows up. Oh my god, Varys shows up after Bismarck.
Varys shows up?
Yes!
What?
Yes! He shows up.
Things I don't remember.
It's so fucking funny. Okay, so after the vault, you have to go to the Sea of Clouds because you're trying to get into Azizla. I talked about this is before you go to Dravenia, but you're like trying to figure out how to get into Azizla. Like, you're trying to like get something, and you have to like fight Bismarck to get something like that. And so after you fight Bismarck, like, Varys shows up. And he's just kind of sexy. It's funny because like Regula like gets in front of him like an angry chihuahua, but Regula is like significantly shorter than like you make like an angry faces at him because like after this the wool is kind of like, I don't have time for your shit for a bit. And the wool like makes like an angry face, and then Regula like gets in front of him like an angry little chihuahua because Varys is significantly larger than him. And then like Alphino says something, and then Varys fucking makes fun of Alphino. He makes fun of a 16-year-old child. He like mocks him. It was so petty. It was so funny. But it was stupid. It was still stupid.
Why did Varys show up?
I think the Garleans were also trying to get into Azizla. Like they're trying to they were trying to get the Elegant Secrets.
Although those Garleans apparently, because they're still there because they can't get rid of them. They're still there, and apparently they're just like now stranded there forever because Shiva's ice will never melt or something for some reason.
That's so fucking tragic.
Yeah,
for them.
They just like someone was like trying to like make a list of all the Garlean like regiments or something, and I remember they kind of like touched upon. Sorry, I can't cite this because I don't know where they came from, but they like touched upon the one that's currently in Azazlan. They were like, I don't know what's up with these guys. They're probably making their own society up there by now or something.
Bro, can you imagine we like liberate Garlemald, right? And then like everyone's like, you know, we uncolonize it like an Endwalker. We decolonize it, and then like all the native Garleans go back, and so like all the ones who are like stationed at like military bases and like the castrums and shit, they get to go back, but the ones in Azizla are still fucking stuck there. That would be so funny.
They're gonna create their own society.
Yeah, their own society with blackjack and hookers. Yeah,
I like that.
Good for them. I don't know what they're eating or drinking up there. I guess there's enough wildlife.
I don't want to think about it.
Nobody get pregnant, just die out. Anyways. Yeah, bro, that colony will get incestuous so fast. There's only like 50 of them. But they are eternally respawning, so I don't know how that works for the genetics department. Anyways, but yeah, so that happens, and now getting back to Azizla, you know, Shiva's death scene and all that, and then like we get back to Azizla. So now we're in Azizla. Estinian is acting the same as he did at the beginning of Heavensward, and I kind of understand it because he's kind of like in himself, but at the same time, like, it feels like the events of the whole story haven't happened. Like, I just feel like we're back to ARR.
Estinian kind of
regresses.
Estinian got like anti-development. Well, I think this is fine because he does get worse later.
He gets worse, and I'm like, oh, well, it's because it's because Nidhogg. But like,
yeah, he's like supposed to get.
But
worse.
At the same time, like, he's not worse. He's just the same as he was at the start. And I understand that that's a backslide from where we left off with him, but it didn't feel like it. It just felt lazy. The way it was presented just felt lazy. Like, and Alf.
I like how at this point he's also pretty much like grumpy Estinian until like the end of Arf when he does his thing.
Yeah, and then it's like, oh god,
which kind of felt like it came out of nowhere.
Yeah, like Alphino has like a barely reaction. Estinian has like a non-reaction. And it's just like, wow, I really thought we were coming somewhere. Like, we were getting somewhere. But we fucking didn't. Even though he showed development up until then, and he even seemed kind of affected at the vault. Like, you know, it was just fucking nothing. I'm like, thanks. Fucking thanks, Square Enix. Fucking thanks. Thanks, Heavensward writers. Fucking thanks. And so we go through Aziz Law, and Aziz Law is a super cool zone. The monsters are really unique. I like that.
It's good. It's a good zone.
Zone design, monster design, all that like the art direction consistently good. It's fucking stupid to get there though. I know I went over like Dravenia and Edelshire like really fast. Cause it was fucking stupid. It was fucking stupid and bad, and it meandered. It was like fucking 10 quests for fucking what? Nothing. Nothing. It was nothing.
For Yustola.
Good God.
Yustola content.
Well, they took away the superior white-haired character.
She got her new outfit too.
Her new outfit, it's nice. I like it.
She got her new outfit, but like in the middle of like that part of Heavensward.
Well, yeah, you know, she's showing up again.
Yeah, I know. It adds to how bad.
Yeah, it does. But at least she fits the aesthetic. And so we go to Azizla, and that's stupid. And then we have to deal with some nodes, and we just like go around Azizla, like doing these nodes is like stupid puzzle. And I'm like, okay, Wheatley from Portal, okay.
This is very like Heavensward quest design.
It was the worst. Like Heavensward quest design is bad for the most part. Like I haven't criticized it much up until now, but it's just like kind of bad.
It's bad. Everyone remembers it. It's bad. It's
but
bad.
Like,
this is not unpopular.
But like, because I had like Izael and Alphino at my side and like Estinian, I was like, okay. But like now, like I have backsliding Estinian and I have object Alphino, and I mean like I have Biggs and Wedge and Sid, but like not really. You know, Ironworks was Ironworks, and then I have like the Node. The Node is so fucking stupid. The Node makes me think of the Oracle from Halo because this makes me think of Halo. It makes me think of Wheatley from Portal. I'm just like, funny robot guy who's hard to deal with. They fucking brought them back for 5.5. I didn't mind them as much in 5.5. I didn't mind them as much. And then we go talk to Tiamat. And like, you reminded me that Tiamat is an Allegan thing. Like, she's not a like, I guess it shows that like the mortals of old also had conflict with the Dravanians. But it's just like you just kind of talk to her and then you go. Like, it's just like, okay.
And you don't let her out until, like, now.
Yeah, like, it's just like, okay, bye. Like, it's just it's so nothing. Like, it's just all so nothing.
Like, I get that she had to be set up, because what Final Fantasy likes to do is it likes to set up and then have these, like, insane years-long down the end payoffs. And in the meantime, it feels like there's a dangling plot thread, but it's not really a dangling plot thread. It's more like, you know, a Chekhov's gun, which they just don't want to pick up for a few years.
Yeah, I don't...
But...
Like, I don't mind it because it's serialized fiction. But... Like, I don't mind serialized fiction taking a while to, like, do things, but if you're gonna set it up, like I love how they set Ardbert up. I love how they did it.
And remember, everyone thought he was like a people thought he was like a nothing arc at that time too.
Well, he was, like, imposing because he, like, hurt Alize. That was enough for me, and he was, like, talking to an Ascian. So when I was playing it, I was like, oh.
No, they thought he was, like, interesting, but, like, of absolutely no import.
Well, yeah, I mean,
which is interesting because
I agree with that. Like, if a character is of no import, like, I don't mind if they, like, feel intense in the moment. And, like, Tiamat did not feel intense. I was not emotional about it. I was emotional about it recently. I think how they resolved it was great, but how they, like, set her up was fucking stupid. Because of where they set her up. Because I was still like, wait, Izael. But that sucked. Like, I was just, like, seething over how bad her death was. And how fucking boring Dravenia was. Like, the hinterlands. Ugh, it was so bad. See, I said I was going to spend this whole podcast ranting, but I actually like talking about good things more than I like talking about bad things, believe it or not.
Yeah, I get it.
Because
like to be honest, like you bringing this up, it's like I enjoyed Heavensward. I found it as an enjoyable piece of media, but that part is definitely like, I probably wouldn't.
The reason we don't have a lot to say about it, and the reason I'm mad about it, like, okay, you guys will hear me ranting about something I hate whenever we get around to talking about Warlit and proper, because Warlit is so bad that you have things to say about it. The reason Heavensward is bad, the reason that I get so angry about it is because it drops the ball so fucking hard at the end. Like, Heavensward drops the ball immensely hard at the end. Like, atrociously. And it's such a shame because they spend the first chunk of the story setting it up really well. And the reason I wasn't, like, I say all these good things about Heavensward. The thing is, I wasn't super impressed by it at the time because even though Heavensward did all these things well, and I know this is part of why Lee was impressed by it because Lee was younger when she consumed it. For me, I've consumed anime, manga, stories that are like Heavensward, tonally, aesthetically, in terms of the actual literal story. It's just a hero's journey, right? So, like, when I was consuming Heavensward, even though I was like, this is good, I was also like, well, I've been here before. And while this is good, this isn't exceptional. So when you take something that's good and not exceptional and not unique, and then you drop the ball, it just becomes mediocre and bad. And that's what happened with Heavensward, where the Dravanian shit is so dumb. Like, it's so like mind-numbingly boring dumb. And then the Yzael shit is, like, actually bad. And then the Aziz La quest design is bad. And then, like, the thing is like, while I think Aziz La is cool as shit, it completely breaks from the aesthetic of the rest of the X-Pack. And that's not always a bad thing, because Doma and Alamigo have different aesthetics, but it's about balance, right? It's about balance.
Yeah, they don't always stay, like, consistent with the aesthetics in an X-Pack. I think that's okay.
I think that's okay, but it was so jarring so late into the X-Pack. Ugh.
Yeah, I agree.
Ugh. And then you go into...
The thing is though, like, you could argue that the end zone of Shadowbringers is like that too, like, jarring.
It's jarring, but it's narratively cohesive.
I think it's supposed to be jarring,
yeah,
too,
it's narratively cohesive. It's narratively cohesive. It's fine if it's narratively cohesive. Which is why I'm okay with the aesthetic changes, again, in Stormblood. Because it's narratively cohesive. Where, like... you're literally going from a water zone into, like, a fiery hellscape, the most basic symbolism, right? And so, but anyways, so you do that, and it fucking sucks. It all fucking sucks. It fucking sucks the whole time. Like, wow, they really killed Yzael like that. Like, I was just thinking that. I was like, wow, they really killed Yzael like that. And I kept talking to the NPCs, and Estinian Alphino kept giving me shit dialogue, and I was like, wait, you're not even gonna say something interesting? You're not even gonna comment? Okay, I have to deal with these fucking nodes. I sound like Estinian being like, these fucking nodes, because I know he's he didn't like them either.
Yeah.
And then you go see Tiamat, and she says nothing of value or substance, even though she's cool and hot, and I love lady dragons. But she says nothing of substance, and then you go to the thermonuclear reactor? Something like that.
It's the Aetherochemical
Research Facility. Yeah, ARF. That's right.
Yes, ARF.
And you fucking fight Regula as the first boss. Okay.
I forgot about
you fucking fight Regula. For some reason. And then you fight like a...
I like that dungeon a lot, though, because I like the music. It fucking slaps.
The music does slap. And then you fight a Chimera. Oh yeah, Great Google Library happens when you're in Dravenia. Completely pointless dungeon. Completely fucking pointless. I like the dungeon because it gives us lore, and I think it's a cute dungeon.
The thing is, I like ARF and I like Google as dungeons, but, like, you're right, in the narrative, they don't really make much sense.
Both of them are stupid in narrative. Like, I don't...
I mean, this is where I'm gonna say, I think it's because they had narrative reasons, they had meta reasons to exist. They didn't have narrative reasons to exist.
Yeah, but there are other things that have meta reasons to exist that they fit into the story well, I think.
Yeah.
This is not one of them.
No, I agree.
It's bad. It's bad. It's bad. It's bad, gamers. It's bad. That's all I have to say. It's bad. I fucking hate it. And so you go through that, and then you fight the Chimera. And I thought the Chimera was conceptually really cool because, like, it was like, wow, you performed really well. We're gonna clone you. And that, like, dialogue has had me on edge ever since we saw the Solace clones.
There's a summoner quest, which is also related to elegance, and it's like the machine tasked with protecting, like, the secrets of summoning or whatever has, like, adopted its former master as its guard mechanism, basically, like, as a summon. And when you show up, it's like, wow, you're strong, I'm gonna kill you and make you into my next summon.
That's interesting.
Which is, like, it's good. I like it.
That's very interesting. So the Chimera does the thing, and then the last boss, of course, is Igiorum and
oh god, like, the fucking Asians show up again.
Yeah, the Asians show up again. And I will praise this dungeon because it had flesh, and I love flesh. I'm not joking. The Endwalker dungeon is also flesh, but it's a lot more flesh. Like flesh walls. Like I know this sounds funny, but I actually love like living Like I think about like in Naruto when he and this isn't like a vor thing. I know it's 8-8, but this isn't a vor thing. I just think it's gross. I think it's creepy. I love creepy. I think it's really nasty. It was really yucky. Oh, it was gross. Like if you walked over the flesh, it went like it was really gross.
Yeah, I remember that.
It was really gross. Dungeon sucks because there's a huge cutscene in the middle of the fucking fight. Ugh. And we have an influx of sprouts right now, so I have to sit through it a lot. But they fuse, and you're like, wow, Ascians can do that, and it's a really easy fight. And it's not a scary fight.
It's like hilarious, actually.
I'm sorry to any Igiorum likers, because I know a lot of people who listen to this actually really like Ascians. Like, I know I have a lot of followers, and especially like very, very, I love you guys, very like loyal stream listeners. Unfortunately, Igiorum was a very nothing character as she was presented in the like raw meat of Heavensward, and it makes me very
Honestly,
sad.
yeah.
Because she's a lady Ascian,
Yeah.
and I wanted her to be cool. But I guess
I like how most of her lore is like, I fucked up.
that is, I do like that. I like
it. I like it too. I like me and Ascian who fucks up.
I became very endeared to her after like Emmett Selk talks about her in Shadowbringers. Like if you talk to him, then he'll tell you about her.
Yeah, he's like she fucked up.
Yeah, but like at this point, I wasn't like endeared to her. I was just like, oh, she's cool. Like I was like, whoa, that's a woman's voice coming out of that one.
Yeah.
I remember I was like streaming End of Heavensward for people, and people were like, wow, that's how no, it wasn't Igiorum, it was when Hilda showed up, because Hilda has kind of like an ara voice a little bit in the Japanese version.
Oh.
And so everyone's like, whoa, that's what she sounds like in Japanese. I'm like, yeah. That's why I think she's sexy. And she's like she's like the cool Onesan. Like that's her like vibe.
Yes. I like that.
She's very sexy. Anyways, so you fight them, and one thing I think is really cool, and this is a very small thing, you use the Arasite on Igiorum, and I think that's interesting because I was talking to my brother about it. I think it's interesting because how he said, he's like, well, you've already fought La Habrea and you kicked his ass, so Igiorum's the new one. You don't know how strong she is. You're like, oh, well, if I don't kill La Habrea now, I'll be able to kill him later, because I did almost kill him last time. And that's how my little brother took it, and I thought that was super interesting, and that's how I've chosen to read it too. I didn't
read anything into it. That's so funny. I didn't read anything into it at all.
And then Thornton shows up.
This is a trend.
Thornton shows up, and he has the big sword. The sword has like the eye in it, and
the sword eats La Habrea.
Yeah, the sword eats La Habrea.
This is La Habrea's canon death, apparently.
Apparently. We don't know with Pandemonium coming up.
Yeah.
Then again, they could just be using La Habrea as a placeholder like they did for fucking Eden's Promise.
Yeah, it was just La Habrea, but it wasn't La Habrea. That was really funny.
Sorry La Habrea truthers. I'm a La Habrea truther too, though. I used to be an Alis truther until Bozia. Look into it yourself. Anyways. So like, okay. I liked this. I liked this line. And this was where I got really mad that Thornton wasn't a character. Because Thornton very legitimately wanted to be a good king for Ishgard. Like,
yeah.
He was doing what he thought was right. And I thought that was interesting, and the fact that they introduced this literally right before your trial means it has no emotional impact. If they had written it into the story like, they kind of imply it when he, like, tells you, like, he is honest with you. He's like, yeah, I'm working with the Ascians. And I thought it was really cool that he duped the Ascians. But there was no compelling writing that went into Thornton. And I'm gonna be real. Because he's just, like, this decrepit old man, no one was gonna get into him. If they made him, like, a hot young guy, we would have scores of fans pretending he's deeper than he is.
Yeah.
That said, I wish he was deeper, and I also kind of wish he had a hot young design, because I think people would pay attention to him then. I kind of feel this way about, like, Ranjit and Vothri, who I actually think are good characters, but they're ignored by the fandom for not being hot.
Yeah. No, Vothri's hot, just only after...
Well, yeah, but you know what I mean.
Only after he turns into a beautiful butterfly.
Like, okay, I love Asahi. I think I don't think he's a great character. I think he's a fun character. I think he has good utility. But Asahi gets a lot more attention than Ranjit and Vothri, despite having a much smaller role. Now, granted, he's Fandaniel now, but I mean even before that reveal. Like, he got a lot more attention than either of those characters, despite having a way smaller role comparatively.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is because he's kind of hot. Even if the fandom isn't like super into him, he is like a conventionally attractive, like handsome dude, right?
Yeah.
Because part of it is like, how easy is the character to draw?
I agree.
And anime artists have an easier time drawing Asahi than they do like Ranjit or, well, Thornton. And most people who play this game who draw are anime artists, or at least influenced by it. Anyways, so like it is disappointing because Thornton isn't like, he isn't this like senselessly evil guy, and he even says like, warrior of light, you don't have to fight me, and you actually can do that. You can just like never progress the MSQ from there. You have the option of doing that. And now Primal Thornton is just like, that is something you can do, and that is a plausible ending for the game. I mean, eventually, like,
that's actually funny. It'd be funny if you actually got like a bad end if you tried to do that. But Final Fantasy doesn't do bad ends.
Yeah.
So all the like supposed instances where you can turn away and not do something, I mean, you can't because you still have to progress.
Well, what Thornton says is like, of course you'd fight a Primal. Like, that's what you do. Like, he says that to you, and he's like, but I have to do this for like my own ends. I do think it's interesting that he becomes a Primal. And, like, we just went through the whole story with Ezale, who also becomes a Primal, who was, like, our enemy, but now she's our friend. And then he does it, too. And for us, it's kind of personal. Like, it is personal. Like, our friend died. Like, before, we were just... He's like,
you don't have to fight me. And it's like, you killed fucking Harshaphant, dude.
Yeah, maybe one of your dudes maybe I wouldn't feel so incensed if you didn't kill my friend, you know?
Yeah. But... Yeah, that's like on you.
Like... Like, and, you know, like, if they didn't have that scene with Harshaphant, like, I would feel worse about killing Thornton. Because even though he's a Primal, and he is obviously, like, drunk with power, like, he was not doing it because he wanted power. He was not doing it because he wanted to cause harm. He was doing it because he thought this was what was best for Ishgard. And in that way, like, he's not different from, like, Nanamo or Kanisena or Merlib. Like, he's not different from any of those characters. And this is, like, he's not even different from Aymeric, or what they wanted us to think Aymeric was. He's not different from Hreysvigr or Nidhogg, and I like that. I like that, like, nobody's, like, different. We just want what's best for the people we love. And, like, sometimes we hurt people to protect people or protect our ideals. Like, I very firmly believe that Yotsuyo and Xenos are the first characters who are, like, really prominent villains who fly in the face of this, like, theory. But, like, before that, we haven't gotten any sort of villain whose harm was not born out of love. Now, granted, we didn't know about the Ascians at this point, but looking back as somebody who's played Shadowbringers, we know the Ascians, too, did their evil out of love and out of selflessness.
Yeah.
And that's, like, a through line that I like about all of Final Fantasy, even Thornton. The fact that we don't regard Thornton, I understand why, because he wasn't presented as a great villain. Like, again, we get, like, 2 smidges of character development, once at the beginning, once at the end. But it would have been interesting if rather than fucking meandering around with Varys and Regula and Matoya and all them, we developed Thornton. Even if we didn't develop Thornton in the late game, like, even if the Vault was, like, even if all the development happened in the beginning and we stayed in Ishgard longer and we did shit in Ishgard, like, it didn't have to be at the back end where they developed Thornton. They could have developed him more at the beginning and then have the Vault be the second to last dungeon, right? Like, you know, like, in the beginning instead, we could have had it that, like, oh, Thornton asks us to help him unlock Aziz La, like, at the very start, right? And then, like, only half of Aziz La is accessible, the same way the Sea of Clouds, only half of it was accessible at the start. Because of flying, and you couldn't get all the aether currents. Like, they could have done something like that, and then Thornton, like, goes to Aziz La with you, and he, like, talks to you or something, and then you have, like, this moment where you're like, wow, old man, you're okay. Like, they could have done something like that. They didn't.
Yeah, they didn't.
I mean, fuck, they could have even had us go to the hinterlands at the very beginning. Like, having us have that moment, because, like, Thornton, like, we're working for him, and if they wanted to, like, really hammer home any sort of betrayal, they could have had us come to an understanding with Thornton in the very beginning, and then he sends us out to do the dragon stuff and the ice heart stuff. Like, I don't know.
Right.
It just makes me upset that, like, just a bit of restructuring could have really made Heavensward good, because it is through this podcast, through talking to you about it, and through working through my feelings for Heavensward, I realize I really love a lot of it, and it's just, it was so bad at the end that I can't forgive that, and that's why I can't be attached to it the same way the rest of the fandom seems to be.
I think most people, like, more experienced like me, where the first part, the part that you found enjoyable, they also found enjoyable, and the last part, the part that kind of sucked, it was just like, you know what I mean? It wasn't such a terrible blemish that it made the entire thing unwatchable.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't have as much like tolerance for this stuff, especially when something has promise.
Like something that I don't have tolerance for is like completely screwing up themes or like
or
completely
retconning.
having or retconning. I have absolutely no tolerance for that, and I really hate stuff that does that. Like, like as we mentioned before, I didn't like Beastars. I didn't like Beastars because I felt like its themes were all over the place, its messages were extremely strange. You don't have to tell a message to be a good story, but it kind of set up like it was trying to tell one, about the goodness of like, like love is love, that kind of stuff, or like, like life is hard or circumstances may be difficult, like, but you still can like find your happiness or something like that. I thought that's where it was going. It wasn't going there. It wasn't really going anywhere. So that's why I didn't like Beastars. With Heavensward, it's like I didn't really have that complaint. You know what I mean?
That's fair.
I was like,
I do agree with you that the themes in Heavensward are cohesive, and that's why it doesn't end up being a 1 out of 10 for me. Or a 0 out of 10.
It would be, no, if it wasn't cohesive, I would hate it.
Yeah. But for me, squandering potential it infuriates me, which is why I'm so nervous about Xenos and Fordola. Like, that's why I get nervous with these characters. But the thing is I think Xenos and Fordola have fulfilled some of their potential. So even if they squander it now, at least not all of it was wasted. Whereas I think Estinian, almost all of his potential was squandered within the confines of Heavensward, and they had to build him from the ground up. I think some of his character later on, like, yeah, when you combine that with Heavensward, it's like, okay, yeah, I kind of get it. That's kind of cool. But, like, even without the context of Heavensward, like, even if it was an NPC they just introduced in 4.0, and he was just, like, this funny, like, incredibly strong guy who just sucks shit, like, he'd still be a funny character, because I like him as a comedy character, which is entirely separate from what he exists as in Heavensward, which is unfortunate. Because there's lots of characters in, like, quests, like, job quests, who are like that, but they're, like, great, because nobody forced me to take them seriously and then drop the ball on them. And so yeah, you fight Thordan, and you can talk about the EX trial here.
So Thordan EX was a symptom of, okay, not a symptom, I guess, a demonstration of their new game design principles, which were make everything as complicated as possible because that's more fun. And I guess it was kind of out of a perception that AR was too simple, which is fair because AR is like, the starter, like, it's the tutorial. AR is almost a tutorial.
Mm-hmm.
So Thordan, being a victim of that, like, kind of game design, had 11 phases.
Holy shit!
And yes, 11 phases.
I haven't done Thordan,
and that's
EX.
not just like exaggeration. There were 11 phases. They were pretty like distinct from each other, and you had to it wasn't that you had to do like so many different things in each of them, but they were distinct from each other. Now, we'll usually have like 3 phases, but in each of those 11 phases, it would be like 1 or 2 like distinct mechanics happen, and then like the stage changes or something like that. Mm-hmm. So it was difficult. I remember I had friends who, at the time, were trying to raid Savage, which, by the way, that first tier of Savage for Heavensward was called the Static Breaker, and when I was playing the game that time, everyone was moving to Gilgamesh. Like, nobody wanted to play on other servers, and this is like, for context, the server like population distribution at the time was way more uneven than it is today, because the way it is today is a result of like a very concerted effort to make the population more even, because obviously if you have all these servers and nobody's on them, then what's even the point? And one of the reasons why anyway, that all the population became centered on a few servers like Balmung and Gilgamesh is because, for at least Gilgamesh, the Static Breaker, which by the way didn't have cross server play then either, so you could only do statics within servers. Mm-hmm. The Static Breaker, which was Mr. Pepsi Man or Living Liquid, mm-hmm. was so hard that people's statics were just breaking up. Nobody could do it. And in order to try and find other players who might be good enough to pair up and beat the tier, people were moving to Gilgamesh, because Gilgamesh was known as the raiding server. So I had friends who were doing Savage, and they were also trying to proc Thordan EX, and they never beat Thordan EX. You got a title for doing it, Mythbreaker.
Oh my god.
And I only saw a few people with that title ever. It was a strange era in Final Fantasy game design.
That's so interesting. Thank you.
So it was a strange era in Final Fantasy game design, and it's one that I'm glad that we are no longer part of.
Talk about the Zephyrin thing.
The Zephyrin thing. So that was a part of the story. That was the part where I was like, this is a really good like story integration mechanic, which they do sometimes. Like there was one in T where they cited this in one of their like live letters recently, where
oh
like,
yeah,
Shanoa,
if you don't watch the cutscenes, you won't know this mechanic.
Yeah. Shanoa the cat is like a little cat that spits out like a cute heart that floats towards the boss. In normal, you're supposed to destroy the heart because it gives the boss a buff. Mm-hmm. In T, Shanoa does the same thing, and everyone was like, destroy it. But the thing is, Shanoa is part of Alexander, and Alexander is trying to help you, actually. And you wouldn't know that if you didn't watch the cutscenes for Alex in Heavensward some years prior.
God, that
so
fucking
a lot
slaps.
of people were destroying the heart, and there were people in chat pointing out, like, wait, you shouldn't do that. Like, Shanoa is trying to help you. You have to keep it alive.
That's amazing.
Anyway, it's hilarious. They were like, we like to slip these kinds of mechanics in to punish people who don't pay attention.
I love that.
But anyway,
I love this team.
Yeah, I think it's hilarious. So that is an example of a story integration mechanic. And another story integration mechanic exists in Thornton, which is when Zephyrin throws the sphere of light at you, which is the same one that he used to kill Haurchefant, and he says, like, you will fall as did your ally. I think that's the exact line. And he's targeting your healer with it. So everyone has to get in front of the healer in a big line with the tank in front, because the person in front takes the most damage. This is a variation of Wild Charge from Coils. You'll sometimes hear like really old players call it Wild Charge when nobody really does anymore. So it's a variation of an existing mechanic, but with that, with that story element on top, that Zephyrin's doing it to your healer, and if your healer dies, your party wipes. Like, it's not even like if your healer dies, it might be harder. If your healer dies, it's just like an instant wipe. The fact that they like added that in, that's the same attack that he used to kill Haurchefant, and that you have to get in front of your friend like Haurchefant did for you.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good. It's so good. It's really
that is really good. When you told me, I was like, holy shit. And then I was like,
it's sick.
Ali was like, we have to talk
really
about
funny.
Cast.
It's really, really funny when you unsync it, because I've done it with like 3 people, and so it was me and like 2 people in front of me, and I was like, guys, help.
That's really funny. I love that. Ugh, I need to do it sometime.
I recommend it. I mean, it's like, even if you do it now, like synced and stuff, it's not the same experience, because back in Heavensward, your rotations were clunkier, shittier, a little harder to maintain. Like tank aggro was harder too, so even tanking was harder back in the day.
Yeah, it's much more
So
streamlined
you're never gonna get the same experience, but I do recommend like trying it out someday.
Yeah, I want to try out all the EX trials. I haven't done any of the Heavensward ones. I think I've only done Shinryu for Stormblood.
Yeah, I think Thornton's fun. There's another mechanic in it that like I'm like, I don't know how this ties in at all, but he like summons a giant eye, and he does gaze mechanics both from himself and the giant eye, so you have to tank him like sideways to the eye so that everyone can turn around like from both him and the eye.
That's so cool.
Yeah, so it's like, where'd the eye come from? I guess it's like the dragon eye.
Interesting.
But, yeah, so they're like, they incorporate that stuff, but that one's like one of the best ones. I really, really like when they put one of your party members in like mortal peril and you have to save them. What I don't like is when you're the party member. Boss.
Yeah.
Because I'm the party member and I have to disengage the boss and I'm in mortal peril. It's like, my DPS is in mortal peril.
I hope they do more of that in Endwalker. I would say I like story mechanic integration. That's my big complaint with 14.
I love it.
It doesn't do it too much, but it's not a gameplay heavy game.
It doesn't do it enough, but it does it quite a lot. I think it should do it more.
Yes.
I think I should be in mortal peril, but also not.
Well, I don't mean like the mortal peril thing. I mean the story, because like I think the one everyone talks about is Tsukuyomi, of course. When they bring this up.
Yeah.
And then Warrior of Light did this. But like, okay, right. I really like, I think Hades actually did it pretty well too with the ad face.
Oh, Hades actually did.
Yeah. Oh, God, I haven't done Hades in so long.
I don't remember. Oh, no, Hades normal has it too, but it's a little bit less interesting. It's just like a bunch of like...
Well, of course the EX is going to be more interesting.
Yeah, no, it's just like a bunch of like faceless Amoradians in normal, and then in
EX it's his fallen allies.
It's actually like they're named and stuff.
And like the mechanics are the same as like in their actual fights.
Yeah, La Habrea uses fire attacks, Iggy Gorham uses ice attacks.
Nabriel's, he uses one of his trio attacks.
He's doing one of his things, and it's like, motherfucker.
It's really cool, and I really like that, and I think they should do it more.
It's good. It's really good.
I'm sure they will, with like at least with the Xenos trial. Like they're definitely going to reintegrate his old mechanics.
Yeah.
One thing I really like is the Varus EX fight uses a lot of the same mechanics as the Xenos one, and that's probably because of reuse. But like, I like it because it makes me think like, oh, this is where he got it from, and that makes me.
I think it's both because of reuse and also because of lore reasons, which I like.
I think it's neat that every Garlean Gunblade user has an attack called Innocence, because Gaius has this attack, and okay, I think Gaius, Varus, and Fordola use this attack, but Xenos does not. I think it's called something else when Xenos uses it, because Xenos never makes like an X, right, with his Gunblade. Yeah. He never does that.
He doesn't have a Gunblade.
Yeah, he literally just he had a Gunblade before he had the katana, and then he only but he only fights you with the katana. He had the Gunblade before that.
I see.
But it was only told to us. We didn't see it. I completely forgot about that. I do like that Xenos is like a... Whatever. No! Fuck Xenos! Anyways. Now we're talking Thornton. Whatever.
I'm gonna have to penalize you because you brought up Xenos in a conversation.
How are you gonna penalize me?
I'm gonna make this sound.
I'm already editing this. That's enough penalty. But I have fun with this or whatever. Anyway, so after that, you defeat Thornton, and he says the thing.
He says the thing. He says the line.
It shadows.
Thornton, say the line.
It shadows on your face, like your face is like shrouded in shadow, and he says, "What?" He says, "What are you?" And Yoshi P said, "They were just the delusions of a dying old man. But with the context of Shadowbringers, I don't believe him. I very much believe the dev team lies to us sometimes." And that is one of the lies. That is one of the lies.
Definitely, yeah.
And it was really, I want to say it felt almost cruel, because he was not, like, he was this,
he's
like,
an old man.
Yeah, he's this tiny little old man, and you've killed all his allies, and everyone's, like, fallen to the ground, like King Thornton, the Primal, is dead. So you are, like, killing a defenseless man in cold blood. Like, that is what you're doing.
Just like Dark Souls.
And then Estinian shows up, and he's like, "I could barely contain the power of one eye, but why the fuck not?" And he grabs the other eye,
like,
and he soups up.
He's like, "I'm Estinian, and welcome to Jackass." And then he picks up the eye, and you're like, the thing is, like, he wasn't there for Arch. Like, I don't think he was really.
No,
there.
He wasn't there. He wasn't there at all. He wasn't there at all.
And then he's like, shows up at me, and he's like, "Hi, I'm Estinian, welcome to Jackass," and you're like, "Estinian, what the fuck?" But he's already done it.
It was so fucking funny. Like,
it was pretty funny.
I love, like, okay, that scene was funny because, like, he, like, stands around, like, spasming. And okay, so I think a lot about how, like, when the wool has an echo, like, everyone just stares at them, hold their head, and go, "Ooh, ouch, owie," for, like, a minute. And in that moment, you get with, like, Estinian, where he's holding the eye, and he's just kind of, like, standing there and spasming. Like, you don't do anything. Like, you could have smacked the eye out of his hand.
This is why I'm, like, the warrior, like, they'll never do anything in cutscenes. You just watch Estinian, and he's like, the pain, and you're just, like, staring at him.
It's worse if you play as Dragoon, because you, like, know how bad those eyes are. It's, like, significantly worse.
You're just looking at him like, oh, no.
like, he already got controlled by the eye during the Dragoon questline at that point, so you're just kind of like, all right.
Yeah.
And I think that, like, again, like, I think that it felt too much like I know, like, it felt too much like...
That's my cutscene that I thought was bad. Like, that's my Yazel cutscene. I remember when I watched it and I was like, dude, why?
It was poorly done, and also it just felt like pre-character development Estinian, because, like, at this point he's gotten his revenge. Like, he has no way of knowing Nidhogg is alive in any capacity.
Well, I don't mind that. I kind of like that because it's like, he's not obsessed with killing Nidhogg, he's more obsessed with the action of revenge at this point. Even though Nidhogg is dead, he's like, he can't do anything else, which I think is really interesting.
Here's how I feel about it. I feel like emotionally we resolve that already. I feel like it's fine if Estinian loses himself further into his vengeance. Because what else are we going to do for Dragon Song War? Like, what else are we going to do? But at the same time, and I don't usually go, oh, why didn't we do the logical thing? Because when everyone, like, I know a lot of people in this fandom critique Aymeric for, like, telling us to cast the eyes, you know? I will talk about that later.
I didn't think anyone critiqued him, like, seriously when he said that, though.
No, a lot of people legitimately think he was stupid for that.
Oh, stop. You're shattering my perception
of the fandom. Oh,
that
no.
people can think.
No, it's stupid. But anyways, like, the thing is, like, God. Like, it just could have been resolved better. It could have been resolved better than just, like, having this fucking Nidhogg thing happen again. Like, especially because, like, you know, Estinian's, like, savage and violent. Like, why wouldn't he pull out his fucking spear and then stab the eye and be like, grr, I hate you, Nidhogg. Like, you know, like, that feels just as reasonable, you know? Instead, he's like...
There's a meta reason he had to be...
Yeah,
you know,
instead
like
he was like, cracking open a cold one, babes, and then
we were
fucking...
setting up the actual cool
fight.
Cool conclusion. Yeah. Which is, like, I don't feel like this felt as earned as, like, for example, like, Yotsuyu's, like, setup.
Yeah, because Yotsuyu's setup was so removed from the larger plot of Stormblood, so it felt more earned.
It's like, oh, like, I guess she's just dead. And then it shows up at the end, like, she's alive. Oh, surprise. She wasn't like that either, which is fair. Like, characters that you thought were dead coming back alive feels a little cheap sometimes, but I mean...
we cycles, baby. We talked about it, so I didn't mind it there. But, like, with Estinian...
Yeah.
With Estinian, it just didn't... Because Estinian's story is so integrated to the, like, central conceit of Heavensward, and Yotsuyu's wasn't. Right?
Yeah.
So there's that. Yeah. I think that's part of why I don't like Elidibus's either, but I'll get to that when we get there. And then, like, because, yeah, every 0.3 expansion is all about, like, one big person's, like, resolving their arc, right? And Estinian, the thing with Estinian is he regresses in late Heavensward, and then he's just not there for, like, the patches. Understandable in a literal way, but if this is supposed to be Estinian's arc, why do we take such a long break away from Estinian? Like, why do we see regressed Estinian, and then we take such a long break? We take a smaller break from him during Dravania, like, during the Hinterlands, and we take a longer break, then we have, like, Estinian is back to being ARR Estinian for Aziz Law, and then he's just, like, not there for, like, almost 3 patches. Like, he just shows up at the back end. And
I actually remember thinking it was kind of strained at the time. I was like, okay.
It was just too much of a gap. Like, Izael is now dead with an unresolved arc. Estinian is here, and he's backslid, and I don't think it was done elegantly. I think it was done very poorly. Alphinaud's the only one here with a complete and good character arc. He's learned to be humble, and he's learned that he has much to learn. And I think for a teenager, that's an excellent arc. We've barely talked about him, even though Alphinaud is one of the best parts of Heavensward.
That's the reason why we haven't talked about him. There's nothing to say besides he was good.
Yeah, because it's just a very basic coming-of-age arc. Like, he was good. He was just a very well-executed, we've already seen this story before. Like, if you've read a shonen manga, you've seen his arc. Like, a good shonen manga. Good but generic. And so now we're at end of Heavensward, and he's souped up. We go back to Ishgard, and, you know, the archers, they, like, pull out the bow. I love that detail, that animation detail. And Vidnafir's like, hey. And then, like, you know, or no, you're on Midgardstormer's back. And you show up with him, and you're like, hey. Everyone's like, whoa! And then, you know, Edmont and
I remember when that happened, I'm like, what if that guy, like, shot you?
Midgardstormer would be fine. But
what if it landed on you?
Oh, shit. They bow, and then Aymeric gives his speech, and they introduce them to the Eorzine Alliance. So, yay,
Heavensward, yay, the title screen shows. Yeah, we're done.
It's bad. They dropped the ball so hard in those last 3 quest lines. I hate it. I hate it with every fiber of my being. It could have been good. I explained to you guys how it could have been good, and it's bad.
I think the reason why I didn't like feel as strongly about it as you do is because it was already so much better than Realm I was like, yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. That's completely fair. And then 3.1, 3.2. Very... I don't want to say mediocre, because I actually really like post-Dragon Song.
3.1 was mediocre, though. Like, as a patch, even.
But it was the best Aymeric writing we ever get. Aymeric gets stabbed with a butter knife, which was very funny.
Oh, right. I remember that.
He gets stabbed. That was very funny.
Haha.
And I would say with a butter knife, because it looks like a butter knife. It was very funny. It was very, very funny.
I remember jokes at the time. It was like, Aimer got stabbed because he's wearing level 1 glamour armor.
That is so funny. Bring it back. Bring it back. So he got stabbed, and that was cool. No, I'm not somebody who wishes violence upon characters who, like, I dislike. Because Aymeric, I dislike him for the crime of being boring. Oh, okay. So in 3.1, Aymeric asks you to dinner. I have to point this out. Aymeric asks you out to dinner, and then he pauses like he just said something awkward and fucked up. And then the shot cuts to the wool, and the wool makes like a surprised, slightly hurt expression. It's so funny, because the implication, like, if you take the, like, Haurchefant was in love with your wool and Aymeric's in love with your wool route, it makes it seem like your boyfriend died, like, a few weeks ago and Aymeric's asking you out now, which is how I read it.
And then he realizes, like, how shitty it is.
Yeah, that's what it felt like. Like, I don't like either of those ships with my wool, but that's what it felt like when I played it. It was so fucking funny. Oh my god, my wool looked so uncomfortable. Femme and Code just look uncomfortable all the time too.
They do. I remember when that happened, I was like, oh, okay. Like, I didn't care.
It was so funny. That's beside, and then he gets stabbed, and I was like, that's what you get. That's what you get. I don't actually know if that's the order the scenes play out in, or that's how I'm.
I don't know either.
But we get the solo duty, and I think Aymeric was actually really good in the solo duty. So what happens is, like, there was the one priest, and you have to go into the vault because they let the broom refugees in there, right? And they're holding them like hostage because, you know, this is heretical and all that. And so you have to, like, go up all of it. And one thing I really like is it's lit in cool light this time instead of warm light. Mm-hmm. And while the warm light was friendly and later painful, the cool light here is almost like a relief because it's not intense. It's just white. It's just white light. And you go up, you run up, and then he has, like, the one little broom girl, and he, like, drops her off the top of the building. The, like, priest. He drops her, and the priest has the same face as Valen's, which I think is really funny. So he drops her off, and Vidnofir catches her. But not on purpose. She just happened to be flying through. Which I think is really funny.
That was one of those, like, funny, like, oh, haha, I guess it is a fantasy after all kind of moments.
Yeah, I think it was a very self-aware moment, though, because they pointed out that she was just, like, passing through. She didn't do it on purpose. I thought that was very funny. And
everyone's just like, oh, wow, what a miracle.
There was a line there that I think Aymeric says it. He's like, the memory of a Dravanian, like, rescuing a mortal girl or, like, an elven girl or some shit, by catching her on her back, this will be burned into the memory of Ishgard for the next 1,000 years, or like something like, or like for the next millennia. He says something like that, and I thought that was a really good line. It was the best line Aymeric gets in the whole series so far. Like, it legit is, because he's just an object. He is just an object. I've said nothing about Aymeric because he's boring. Aymeric is a worse character than Estinian. I will stand by this because he's boring.
Can we talk about the political ramifications of turning Ishgard into a representative?
Oh God, yeah.
Democracy?
Go ahead.
Okay. Okay. Well, no, I just think it's funny because this is a leftist podcast, but I think it's kind of funny that we kind of, like, transition Ishgard from a theocracy to, you know, like, the more or less the British system of government with, like, a House of Lords and a House of Commons. And everyone's like, yay, it's so much better. And it's like, they're still, like, a House of Lords. Overthrow the Lords.
Yeah, it's like 50% of the government is still represented by, like, the 1%.
Yeah, and I think it's funny. I don't think it's bad writing. I think it's funny because it kind of betrays a little bit of how, I guess, our perceptions of the real world bleed into our fantasy. You know what I mean? So this is one of those things where writing affects reality, because this is just the government we have in most real life places. This is just the government we have in most real life places. You know what I mean? They're like, yay, democracy. And I'm not saying democracy is bad. Clearly democracy is good. But it's like, this is, like, you know, the representative form of democracy, which it's kind of funny. But it's like representative democracy, which is what we all have, like, pretty much all of us. Okay, maybe not all of us, actually, but a lot of us have a representative democracy, and, you know,
I felt something when you said that.
Yeah, I was like, and then I was like, actually, but you know what I mean. But
not about my government.
Yeah,
not Canada, but
yeah. But anyway, a lot of us have this kind of form of government, and people are sometimes like we can't really we can't really think of another better form of government sometimes, even though I guess there kind of should be one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's funny that our fantasy, too, kind of shows how we can't really come up with anything better. So this is... I mean, obviously I don't think Ishgard should transition immediately to be like a social utopia.
I mean, we could...
if we weren't cowards. But anyway, I just think it's funny. I don't think it's like bad writing. I don't even think it's like bad political commentary. I just think it's a little bit revealing.
I think it's
you know
mediocre.
What I mean?
It's very
I think it's just revealing of
it's like flat soda. It's like flat soda.
It's just I just think it's revealing of how we write to our standards of the world. Yeah.
Like I assume if you think like the Japanese or the American government are like good, and granted, this is also like during a different political climate. This is like 5-6 years ago. Like obviously, like when we think about it now, like I think most young Japanese or American people will be like, "What the fuck?" But at the time, like, because okay, when Heavensward would have come out, even if I was playing it at the time, I feel like I would have gotten pissed because even back then I was a leftist. I was a pretty hardcore leftist. I was in university at this time too, so I was like reading a lot of theory. I was always pissed. And so but I'm more mature now, so I can be like, I think it's bad writing, and I think it's bad political commentary, but I understand why it is the way it is. Like, I'm not frustrated with the fact that Ishgard ended up this way, but I am at the same time, because I'm like, this is pro-gerrymandering. Aymeric supports gerrymandering. Aymeric supports over-representing the interests of the 1%. And Aymeric was like, no, I was only the temporary leader, but then they wanted to make me the permanent leader, and I couldn't help but say no. I'm like, Aymeric, you fucking grew up with the 1%. You're drinking birch syrup while children are dying of starvation in the Broom. That guy drinking downstairs in the Broom, he's been crying about his wife dying from the plague since the beginning of Heavensward. Are you going to do anything about this? Certainly not, Lord Commander. And are you going to do anything about the Dravanian problem? Well, clearly not, because me and Estinian and Zale were taking care of it for the last whole expansion. What were you doing, Sir Aymeric? What were you doing? Tell me, Sir Aymeric, tell me. God.
I feel Noah's like teenage like leftist coming out.
This is how Svein feels about Aymeric, actually, more than I do. I don't feel this strongly about Aymeric. I'm just kind of like, you've committed the crime of being a boring character. But Svein, my wool, feels this way about Aymeric.
Love that for him.
My wool legitimately thinks he's useless and bad at politics and bad at fighting, and he's like, I don't want to soapbox about my wool. We'll do it later. Wool cast later. But my wool doesn't like Aymeric because he thinks he's bad at politics. But my wool doesn't like most of the cast for this reason, whereas I love most of the cast. So don't think that I dislike Aymeric because my wool fucking loves Estinian. I don't like Estinian. So again, my opinions are definitely not my characters. But Sir Aymeric is just boring. Like, he was kind of cool because he was kind of like heroic and like chivalrous during the thing. And him being like a cliche character is better than him having no character. But he goes back to having no character after this. However, another dark-haired Elezen gets a great arc during this time, and that's Emanelaine. I love Emanelaine's little arc.
Oh, right, he does.
Oh, we can't talk about this without mentioning. Thancred shows up. We meet him again. He was naked. He was censored with a squirrel over his dick, but he was naked. I thought it was really funny.
That meme has come back over and over again.
Because it's fucking hilarious.
It's really good.
I love that meme. The convenient nutkin censoring is everything.
It's good.
Thancred's a funny guy. He shows up. He has his depression haircut. He's tanned from being out in the wild. He really needs a shave. He looks like he smells, which makes sense.
He probably does.
Yeah.
And like the people in like the village nearby are like, yeah, I saw this like fucking like goblin guy. How did he do this?
and he shows up and he saves you from Ardbert, who's like fighting like Ravana. So that happens. And then you go back, and so the thing with the priest happens in I think 3.1. I could be misspeaking. 3.1 and 2 and 3 blend together in my head, but I'm gonna try to order the events as best as I can. I can apologize if I can't.
I don't actually know when they happen either. So,
but the thing is that Ishgard is in disarray, and different people are represented differently. Because for a lot of these people, and this is the problem. Okay, there is a problem of structuring your government as us versus them. This is a frequent critique of fascism as a government. I mean, we know why fascism is bad. But one of the biggest problems with fascism is the us versus them mentality. Us versus them is always going to be a bad mentality because once you run out of them, then you turn against us. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and that is demonstrated pretty neatly in those Heavensward patches.
Yeah, where you have the Hellenic priest who's like, well, this is sacrilegious. And then, and with Hilda, actually, you had the Brooms people didn't trust you guys because they were like, well, you only represent the House of Lords. And clearly Aymeric proved them right later on. But,
Yeah.
In the story at the time, it was like, no, we represent everyone. So let's ignore that. Sweeps that under the rug. Oh, we do a bit of restoration. So anyone who died in between a Dragon Song resolution and restoration, they don't matter. Sweeps those lives under the rug. Anyways.
Yeah, now we got like houses.
yeah, of course. And
a public bath.
We have houses and a public bath. What about Medicaid? Well, I'll get back to
you. Universal health care for his guardians.
When? If Edmond is so great, why didn't Edmond vie for universal health care, huh? Anyways.
When will Ishgard Bernie Sanders appear?
I have to say, Edmond getting more attached to you after Haurchefant dies was really sweet. I really like it. Him and Artoyrel and Emmanuel, like all three of them get a bit more attached to you after Haurchefant dies.
Yeah, because you're kind of like the adopted son.
Yeah, what was almost more painful than the vault was having to go tell Edmond. I felt like shit during that cutscene.
That cutscene was really, like, it was good. It hurt a lot, but it was good.
That was one of the hardest cutscenes to sit through in, like, all of, like, I'm trying to think, in, like, the whole game. Like, the only cutscene I can think of that was, like, that hard. Like, there are cutscenes that got me more emotional. I would say, like, some of the 4.1 ones. But the only other one that was, like, so difficult to sit through was, like, watching Asahi, like, kick, like, Yotsu's almost dead body. But that was difficult for a different reason. But those were, like, two of the most difficult cutscenes to sit through. But yeah, so he's, like, a lot, like, I wouldn't say clingier. I remember Artoyrel specifically, he, like, depending on the gender of your character, he says you either are, like, a brother or a sister to him. When he said that, I was like, I don't want that, because I think he's hot. I was like, don't
say that.
I just got friend zoned by Artoyrel. That's how I felt.
I'm so sorry.
I was like, oh, friend zone. If you go up to the Four Toms Manor, there's like a girl out there who's like looking at the Four Toms Manor. If you talk to her, she's like, I wonder if Lord Artoyrel is. Oh, never mind. I'm like, girl, stay away. Anyways.
That's my man.
That's my man's. And by my man's, I mean I'm gonna sleep with him once and then fuck off to Alamigo.
Okay.
Spain couldn't get one long-haired man, so he got another. Anyways. So Emmanuel gets a great arc. He's Haurchefant's little brother, and he was kind of weak and useless in the main story, but he was funny and he was cute, and I liked him. And so in this one, he is also weak and useless, but this, instead of it being a funny haha thing, it ends up being a fucked up thing. So what happens is...
It gets played straight, yeah.
Yes. So you like go to a bar, right? Like in Camp Falconhead.
This is the scene where you get roofied!
Yeah!
Yay!
I want to say that scene also caused an immense emotional distress in me. Partially because...
I like seeing my will suffer.
While I am a man, I'm a trans man, and I went to college as a woman. I went to a lot of college parties, so I'm very, like, wary with, you know,
right.
Like I've been to bars, you know, I'm very wary. I think, like, if you you know, women can relate. Women or people who grew up as women can relate. So
my favorite part of that scene, though, is, like, you fall over because she roofies you.
Yeah.
And then Banker comes over and is like, what are you doing on the floor, stupid?
Okay, yeah, like that scene, okay. 14, mercifully, never makes you feel like you're, like, in sexual danger.
Yeah.
Mercifully. A lot of games do, if you play as a female character. And I fucking hate it, and it's unfortunate. I did like that scene because partially because it's a woman who drugs you, so I think, like, we don't have that. Like, if a man drugged me, I might feel more intense about it, because I have an experience with Aymeric that I'll talk about when we get to 3.3 later, but... Like, that's...
Aymeric call-out post?
Yeah, Aymeric call-out post. Well, part of the reason I don't like Aymeric... Like, okay, not I don't like Aymeric. I think this is just something the devs didn't account for. Aymeric makes me feel a little uncomfortable during the, like, date scenes. I'm like, I'm in a strange place with a strange man who is like, okay, my wool is like a melee, and he's really strong, so it's not like my wool couldn't, like, kick Americ's ass, but visually, I play as a femme Mikode. Like, I use a femme Mikode model. And so my wool is this little tiny, like, 5'2", like, you know, what I'm seeing is a cat girl, and then Americ is, like, this huge guy. And I'm in a, like, house alone with him, and he's, like, offering me, like, alcohol and stuff. It gave me anxiety. It gave me Noah anxiety. And this doesn't color my perception of Aymeric, because I know that wasn't the intent of the writers. Like, the intent of the writers was not to make me feel uncomfortable because I was alone with a strange man. But, like, that scene made me personally uncomfortable because I've been in situations where, like, and, like, I'm not, like, dumping out my trauma or anything. Like, it's not, like, anything bad happened. But I have been in situations where I've been alone with, like, a man who, like, maybe I have a professional relationship with, and it did make me uncomfortable just because of my own hangups. And so I felt that way watching the Aymeric cutscene, and I do think that contributes to some of my negativity towards Aymeric. And I do wish the devs kind of accounted for the fact that somebody could feel uncomfortable with that situation. Maybe I'm not good at buying into the fantasy of the perfect romantic guy like that. Like, I feel like I would feel less uncomfortable if I was alone with this. Because there are scenes where your wool is alone with a Stynian, and I never felt uncomfortable like that. Or even with Harshaphon, who, like, very openly, like, hits on your wool. But I don't know why it was Aymeric that made me uncomfortable. Maybe because it's
it's
man.
Funny because, like, I didn't get those vibes from the scene, but I did find that scene kind of awkward. You know what I mean? Like, he's, like, smiling and, like, he's like, tell me more about your stories. I'm so interested. And you're just like, okay. Like, that's what I got out of the scene. I thought it was, like, a little awkward.
Yeah. It like, it depends on how you read it. Some people thought it was romantic. Some people, this happens after, like, the Nidhogg fight, so we'll return to what we were talking about in a second. But, like, it's I don't know. It's interesting. Very few people agree with me that scene makes them uncomfortable. And I think part of it has to do with my own Warrior of Light. I've written him to be a character who does not trust people. And again, he's a very small person. He doesn't like Aymeric. So I was going into the scene with a lot of preconceived notions and hangups. And when I watch cutscenes, I perceive them through my wool's lens. I try to. And from my wool's lens, that scene is fucking terrifying and uncomfortable. And he doesn't... Okay, it's not terrifying, because again, he's not scared of Aymeric. But he dislikes him, and he's rejected him before, so it's an uncomfortable scene for him, where he's like, well, I have to do this for professional reasons. And for me, personally, again, I'm like... I don't like... even if it's with a woman, I don't like being in a professional one-on-one setting. I just don't like it. I think it should be a group setting, or it should be at the office. I would not go to, like, my boss's home.
No, that's, like, I think most people agree with you. That's kind of awkward.
Yeah.
Unless you have that, like, sort of relationship that your boss is okay with, you know, just being...
Yeah, Aymeric is your boss. Well, no, I have, like, this one boss. I worked at this coffee shop, and she was really cool, and I really liked her, and I've been to her house, and I've, like, met her son, like, her little baby son. She was super cool.
Like,
I really liked her.
It's not weird if you know them. It's not weird if you know
I
them,
think that's the implication. Like, you know Aymeric, so it's fine to go to his house. But
it's like, I don't, though.
Yeah, you don't, because he's a fucking object. And so it was uncomfortable. It was really uncomfortable for me. Like, even if you don't have that, like, oh, I'm alone with a strange man vibe, it's still uncomfortable for me personally. I'm sorry to anybody who maybe feels a different way, but this is just how I felt personally. It says nothing about Aymeric's character. It says nothing about your perception of the story. Just my own hangups. We all have different interpretations, right?
Yeah.
And I don't want to, like, joke around about this.
Our interpretations are all valid, as said by the XIV devs themselves.
Yeah. And I don't want to, like, talk about this in, like, a funny haha jokey way, because I do think it's a bit of a serious topic, so I wanted to make an aside. And so, getting back to the girl who drugs you, so she drugs you, she hates you, because...
She really hates you.
Like, her husband or her brother, it was something like that, he, like, died in the fight against...
Her husband, yeah.
Yeah, her husband died in the fight against the dragons, and in creating a peace with the dragons, because it's like, you guys are getting ready for, like, a parley for peace with, like, Vidnafir. And to like declare peace between the Dravanians and the Ishgardians. And so in parleying for peace, you're making her husband's sacrifice pointless.
Yeah.
And this is like something that like other people feel the same sentiment. Like as you do the quest, like there's like an old couple who like lost their son and they feel the same way. And it's like really tragic.
Like, what did he die for?
Yeah.
And it's like it sucks to tell, like, to, you know, the truth is that they died for nothing, but, you know, they take it out on you because you're the most accessible one, I guess.
Yeah. Which I think is interesting. They take it out on you because you're the most accessible one. We watched a video about this yesterday, so it was interesting. It was ContraPoints' Envy video. It's really good. Go watch it. Don't take a break from this. Watch it afterwards. Or do. Grab a snack. Anyways. But live your life how you want. And I don't know, it was so neat. Yes, it was funny that, like, nothing comes out of it. Like, they don't, like, kidnap you and, like, beat you. I guess because they know they can't do that.
I kind of wanted something more impactful to happen to the wall at that point. When he just got up and was fine, I was like,
yeah, I was like, aw.
I thought like I freaking died or something. I was like, oh my god.
I felt like more scared for my wool in that scene than I ever have. Like, more than when Xenos, like, beats you, more than when you're good. Like, fighting people. It was a
good scene. I like when the wool is in peril.
Because it was the only time, like, the only other time I maybe felt, like, close to that in danger was, like, Emmett. And, like, since, like, aside from that, like, it's interesting that it's the scene where and another interesting point is the wool refuses, like, beverages from people they don't know. Like, it's after really cool. Yeah. I really like that.
It's not just that, like, you got roofied, but you saw Nanamo get poisoned. It's just a whole lot of other things. Like, at the party or date with Amaric, the butler offers you wine, you look at him with, like, this huge wide-eyed, like, stare, and you're like, no.
The wool has PTSD. PTSD, and I like it when they acknowledge it. It's really cool. Especially in, like, those small, intimate scenes. Like, if the wool has, like, a PTSD moment of fight, that's, like, one thing. But, like, I think trauma, it hits you in the quiet moments, and that's the worst part.
Yeah.
It makes it feel more realistic, even though it's a fantasy story. Okay, so, like, they reveal, like, the big dragon banner. Vidnafir appears. It's cool. It's badass. Yeah, fuck yeah, Vidnafir. Yeah. Fucking Estinian shows up. Hey, Estinian, but he's controlled by Nidhogg. Hey, he's got the eyes fused to his body. It's really gross. Hey,
it's super gross.
He turns into Amaric actually gets another cool scene here where he immediately points a bow and arrow at him. And if you read the short stories, Amaric and Estinian are childhood friends. They were in the academy together.
Amaric does not hesitate here to shoot Estinian, which I think is actually super interesting. More characterization that he got in the actual base game of Heavensward.
Yes, and I wish they, like, continued on that, because I have an Amaric I roleplay with, actually, and they emphasize this in their writing a lot, that Amaric has, like, how they choose to write him, how they choose to interpret him, is they give Amaric the same cutthroat, ruthlessness for my country thing that Thornton had. And it's like, thinking about that as, like, a genetic trait is really cool. Or, like, a familial trait, not genetic. I don't know, I think it's cool. And shout out to Rico, if you're listening to this. Haha. Anyways, so I thought that was really cool. This is also a lot of why people ship Amaric and Estinian. Like, this is part of it. Like, not just that they're, like, Ikemen who are, like, in proximity, but, like, that they actually have this, like, backstory.
I wish, like, Final Fantasy is pretty good usually about keeping important story in the game and not in outside material, but that is one of them that should probably be in the game.
I think they offhandedly mention it, like, later on.
Yeah, they do, but it's not,
I wish it was more blatant, though.
Yeah.
Because I like knowing, like, the reason that I don't like stories that center on the wool too much is because it almost feels like all these people only know the wool. This is actually a gripe I have with Shadowbringers. And this is, like, I think only Stormblood does this well. Where the characters, I think ARR does it well in plays like with Moanbreeder and Rianjay, but I think with Alize and Alphino it's done well consistently. But for the most part, it doesn't really feel like the characters are friends with each other. Like, not completely. The way they are with you. Like, I guess maybe, like, the adult Scion trio do, like, Thamcred, Y'shtola, and Rianjay do, but, like, they don't feel like they care that much about the twins. Like, or, like, the fact that Reen, like, barely interacts with the twins. I'm like, but they're, like, the same age. Like, would they not be friends? Like, this is so strange. Whereas, like,
it seems like they're not really friends with each other.
Whereas in, like, Stormblood, I think...
Like, I thought at the beginning it's because Reen is, like, Reen is kind of in her own head for a lot of the beginning of Shadow.
But, like, in post, they don't ever...
In post, they don't talk to her.
You just get the one scene with, like, Reen and Alize.
Maybe they just really don't like her.
they were like, God, they're like, oh,
they're like, God, here's...
oh, she doesn't even have a PhD. How can we hang out with her? Wool? You expect me to hang out with her? She doesn't even have a PhD. Can Reed even read?
Wool's like, I don't know how to tell you this, but I don't have a PhD, and they were like, gasp, very scandalized.
But like I like Stormblood because like Lys and Alisaie feel like friends with each other, and like Lys feels like she's even friends with Yugiri, and Yugiri and Hien obviously feel like friends, and I just feel like Monago and Lys feel like friends, but like you don't have that sort of, and I guess like for some people it kind of hurts because it feels like they're like distracted from the Wool because they're friends with other people, but I like that. It feels more organic. Like I don't like that in Heavensward the characters all fawn over you like too much. And so that little bit of Estinian and Aymeric interaction, I'll take that crumb. Not because I ship Estinian Aymeric, because I don't care, but like because it makes them both feel more like real people, that they have an investment in each other. And that's why the camping trip was so good, because like everyone...
I like writing that makes characters feel like people. I think it's actually a really important part of fiction that sometimes like people might overlook, because they're trying to write an impressive story, but a character that feels, talks, and acts like a person is more important to me than, I don't know, some epic story like Heavensward with a whole bunch of different plot lines that never really made too much sense.
Yeah, like, this is why no one remembers Regula, except for, like, maybe 5 people.
I didn't remember him!
I remember him, because I
only remembered him from the Warring Triad questline, because
and that's the questline that humanizes him.
He gets, like, a cool, like, death scene. Like, a cool death scene, yeah.
Yeah, or, like, I like Leofard a lot because they, like, humanize him so deeply.
That's the guy from the Void Arc.
Yeah, right? That's the guy from the Void Arc questline.
He's good. He's really good. There are a lot of characters that are just bad characters.
Like,
they're barely characters.
I would say that that's the thing I remember the most from Void Arc, more than, like, any of the lore stuff, is Leofard and his mother, because that was the most human aspect of it. That was the part that hit me emotionally the most.
I liked it a lot, too.
With Alexander, the thing I remember the most is actually, like, Mide and her boyfriend. That was when I first cried. Because like I got really emotional over like her motivation. Like it's because like you can think like, oh, I can, like, I don't know how, like, a spectacle is one thing and spectacle is cool, but like again, when Aymeric like pulled out that bow and arrow, like I thought about it. I'm like, could I do that to one of my friends, one of my childhood friends? Like I always think of Vera, because Vera and I have known each other since we were like 10 and 11, right? Mm-hmm. And Vera might be on this podcast, by the way. Hi, so if you're back listening, then like if you somehow are listening to these out of order, then hey, but yeah, like it's like, would I be able to do that for Vera? Well, I wouldn't, because I'm not a fucking nationalist, but I also am not in Aymeric's position. Like I don't have, like, I'm not establishing a new government, and I'm not trying. If it was for peace, could I shoot Vera? I don't think I could. Whereas like Aymeric was fucking ready, right?
Yeah.
Bow and arrow out. If Vera turned into a huge dragon and was like, fuck society, I would be like, cool. Now if Vera was being mind controlled, I might not be like, cool, which is what Steven's going through, but
I have friends who I would be like, cool, and then like go with them.
Yeah. If it was for the peace of humanity and you did not shoot me, I would not want that. If it ever comes down to it, Lee, you gotta do it. You gotta do it.
Okay.
I care about the peace of humanity far more.
Okay.
I'm gonna add a gunshot there. Anyways. So he does that, and then he flies away, and then like the chick who poisoned you, she's like up on the pews, and she's like, see, the Dravenians are bad. Or not the pews, the pillar, whatever. She's like up there. Like, it's like in an elevated position. She's standing over the crowd. She's like, see, Dravenians are evil. She starts chanting. Everyone in the crowd starts chanting. And Manaline doesn't know what to fucking do. Like, they gave him easy duty. Like, they were like, oh no, nothing's gonna happen. Don't worry. But then, of course, something happened.
Of course something
happened.
And
Manaline fucking, he tells one of his soldiers to shoot her. And she dies. Or, no, she doesn't die. But she gets injured really badly. And it looks like she died.
She gets injured badly, and it's like, in the immortal words of social media, bad optics. It's very bad optics.
Like, everyone thinks she's dead. everyone was like the crowd goes like quiet, and then they're like, whoa, fuck the Ishgardian government, fuck the high
someone starts shouting like, fuck the government. Everyone's like, fuck the government. That didn't happen, but you know, it
would be funny if it did though. And so then they do some crowd control, and then Emmanueline is like left with himself. I think Honoroi like gets injured too. I don't know why though.
He does. It's it's the mob. There's people like rioting.
Yeah, people are like rioting, and then Honoroi gets like fucked up. And Honoroi is like a little like 14-year-old boy, maybe 12-year-old. Like he's very young.
He's like Arturo's like, or not. Emmanueline's like super best friend.
Yeah. Very sad. Anyways.
Yeah.
But it is sweet. It's sweet even though it's indentured servitude. We just give the Four Tomps a slide on that, I guess.
That's okay.
I mean, it's literally, God, I'm not going to think about it. Don't think too hard about it. This is just Ishgardian culture. It's just Ishgardian culture.
Me on the leftist podcast about indentured servitude. It's okay.
Svein, how could you judge me? Come now, this is just Ishgardian culture. Are you really going to come in and tell me not to partake in my culture? That seems a bit imperialist, Svein.
Oh my God.
How can you call yourself a liberator when you don't agree with my indentured servitude? This is my little Emmanueline live action roleplay. Anyways,
it hurts.
I like the audience is encouraged to overlook it, and it's not like I was like watching it and being like, "Grr, indentured servitude." Like I didn't feel that way, but it's like when you think about it, it's like, oh, that is kind of fucked up. But anyways, but like I don't want to be like, oh well, Honoroi is happy to be an indentured servant, but he kind of is. Like the narrative doesn't present it as bad, so just look past it. I'm having a Heian moment here. Anyways, so
no, I think it's kind of funny because you're right. The narrative doesn't really like. You know, he's happy because otherwise, if he wasn't in that position, he'd probably be like on the street.
No, this is the Heavensward Stormblood double standard where everyone criticizes Heian for the fucked up thing he did, but nobody fucking criticizes Emmanueline for the fucked up thing he does. It's because Emmanueline's cute.
Well,
I like Emmanueline.
Emmanueline taught him to read. Remember that?
Yeah, that's true. It's so fucked up to say, yeah, Honoroi would probably be worse off if he wasn't with Emmanueline, but it is kind of true. But anyways, so he gets fucked up, and Emmanueline's like, oh God, what I did, it hurt, not, I fucked up, I ruined Harshafon's memory, I suck, oh God, and the wolf's like getting ready to punch him. This scene is so fun. This scene is funny, but it's intense, because I was like,
I didn't realize when I first played it that the wolf was gonna punch him.
Okay, this scene is funny to talk about, but every time I watch it, I'm like stunned into silence, because it's actually really emotional, like how they present it. Where it's like, it's really dark. I actually don't know if the lighting is controlled by what time of day it is, or if they force the lighting. But it's like, last time I played it was nighttime. I think they force it to be nighttime, because they force the crowd scene to be during the day.
I think it's nighttime, yeah.
Yeah. And so he goes over to, like, Honoroi, and he's like, they send him back to Ishgard to get him, like, healed up. And then he's, like, sitting on the stairs, and he's like, I'm so fucked up. And then the wool goes into, like, the wool gets angry, the wool's getting ready to punch him. And then, Thancred, like, stops the wool. And he kind of gives him like some words of encouragement, and Emmanueline stands up, and then Thancred punches him. And this scene means a lot to me because Thancred also lost his sister. We learn later, like Thancred talks to Cryo later, and he's like, he refers to, oh my God, we skipped over all the Dravania stuff again. Some Dravania shit happens. We meet Cryo during that time, who's like Minfilia's like friend from Sharlayan. She's also Graha's friend. Very uneventful though. This is when we do it's in 3.2 we do this dungeon. 3.2 is God, what's it? Not Great Google. The other hold on, let me look it up. The Anti-Tower. Because you go back to try to get Minfilia. Yeah. You go to the Anti-Tower to try to find Minfilia's Aether or something. And so you like go back to Dravania, do all that stuff. You know, just another detour. Which is fine. But Emmanueline stuff is, like, way better. But, like, okay, Thancred punching was great, because, like, I guess the Anti-Tower ties in, because you guys are trying to get Minfilia back, and you can't. Like, you can't detect her Aether or anything. And so, like, obviously Thancred's stressed about that. He, like, tells Cryo, like, way later, like, in, like, 2 patches, not, like, way later. But he tells her, he's like, Minfilia and I weren't like that. She's, like, a sister to me. And, like, that part, so, like, it makes it so fucked up that, like, Thancred's lost his sister, and Emmanueline's lost his brother, you know? So they're both going through it. Like, it's not like Thancred was being, like, a reasonable guy and punching him to tell him to man up. Like, no, he was taking some of his anger out on Emmanueline. And I think that's, like, a really good point that, like, I made a really good point. And, like, it's not often brought up in fandom because people are like, oh, you know, Thancred's, like, a cool guy. He's trying to get, like, Emanaline to act level-headed. But, like, no, he was taking his anger out on him. Like,
right.
You know. Because 14 doesn't endorse violence. There's a lot of violence in 14. But it's never, like, endorsed. Like, it's never, like, violence is a good thing. So I don't think the story would be like, yeah, it's a good thing that Thancred punched Emanaline because it forced him to grow up. No.
So... What happens is after all the stuff with Thancred, we have to go to, I think the dungeon name is Som-Al, right? With Race Velgar?
That's Sorkai. Different one.
Sorkai. Okay, Sorkai is the one with Race
Yes.
Velgar in the patches?
Yes.
Okay. But we go to Sorkai, and it was so fucking funny. We had like a solo duty, I think, in 3.1, right? Where
it was the grand,
I think
the
we
grand
actually
melee,
I think we
right?
talked about this. I think we talked about in the vault when they had all the refugees.
Oh no, okay, that one. I don't even remember that one very clearly.
Well, that was like the one like good moment of characterization Aymeric got. I might actually cut that because I think we talked about this last week, but maybe not. We'll see. Note to future Noah. Anyways, but yeah, we go to like I don't know. I want to say Aymeric was good in the future. I feel like. I'm gonna straight up say, I think that the, like, head writing team for Heavensward and Dragonsong might have been different because of how different Aymeric's characterization is.
I wasn't paying enough attention to Aymeric at the time, so I literally cannot confirm or deny.
Well, what happens is that, sorry, I have a bit of a cough. What happens is Aymeric is, like, he's talking to Race Velgar. Like, we go to, like, ask Race Velgar to help us fight Nidhogg. Because, you know, the Nidhogg, like, appeared at the, you know, like, right before Emanaline got punched. Like, Estinian appeared, and then he, like, turned into Nidhogg and hurt Vidnafir. Yeah, and he, like, turned into big Nidhogg. Like, he transformed. And all the crowd was like, what the fuck?
I remember that.
So, what happens is that, Aymeric, okay, so Horace Velgar's like, dude, you want me to hurt my brother? What's wrong with you?
I remember that.
And then Aymeric, oh, God bless the Dragon songwriters, because if Aymeric had been good in Heavensward, this part would have, like, shaken me to my core. But the whole time I was just thinking of how badly written he was in Heavensward. Yeah. And, like, okay, the thing with patch writing is patch writing can only be good if the base game is good, right? Where, like, yeah, sure, maybe in isolation the writing of Dragonsong is good, but you need the foundation of the MSQ to enjoy the patches. Yeah. You can't fucking enjoy Dragonsong because Heavensward was so, you know, like, flaccid. And I guess this is why I remember Heavensward so poorly, because you had that build-up, and then Izael dies, so she's gone. Artoyrel, like, fucks off out of the story, basically, and he fucks off. Emanaline, like, this is why I praise Emanaline's writing the most, because Emanaline had build-up and payoff. Estinian also had build-up, but the payoff was, like, so fast, because Estinian's whole thing, it's not about Estinian, it's about, like, everyone surrounding him. And that would be fine if Izael was alive and Aymeric was a halfway decent character, but Izael's not around. So the only characters we can get any sort of reaction from is the Wool and Alphino. And I think while the Wool's writing began to become stronger in Heavensward, it was actually pretty, like, flatline during Dragonsong. Yeah. Like, I would say we reacted more to shit during Heavensward than we did during Dragonsong. I agree with that. And so what happens is that, so Aymeric's like, well, I killed my dad. Wait, I didn't even kill my dad.
I sent this guy to do it.
Yeah, and that's how much I suck. So don't you want to, like, literally participate in killing your brother? Like, okay, he didn't say that. That would be funny. If he said that, then I would say Aymeric is based. But, he was more like, see, I was so much of a coward that I couldn't even, you know, kill my father by my own hands. And that's like a raw fucking situation. If they had acknowledged that Thornton was Aymeric's father at any time, other than, like, the two quests.
And also when he walks in, he's like, Dad!
Yeah, like they don't like bank on
Not
it. Like
really,
I feel like Aymeric and Thornton being related because it could have been such like beautiful
Right. I
like
agree.
drama. Like again, one of those like very clearly inspired by Game of Thrones. And since okay, I'll admit we're recording the Heavensward cast segmented. I'll admit it here.
Since we recorded last time, an interview came out where Banri Oda, who wrote Heavensward, or at least was very heavily involved in it. He is like the lore master. He admitted that he took inspiration from Game of Thrones, or like at least read it or something like that. I don't remember what the exact wording was. So there, if you have it.
Yeah, from the first book. I think.
It was just
like,
it wasn't Game of Thrones. It was A Song of Ice and Fire.
A Song of Ice and Fire. Yeah, and it's just like. Yeah, it was really obvious with the like ham-fisted Aymeric and Thornton being related and nothing coming out of it other than some flaccid, meaningless dialogue and Harshaphant dying. I'm not angry that Harshaphant died. I said last time, I'm really glad he did. But anyways.
I get what you mean.
So Horace Veilgour's like, wow, you know what, Aymeric? Based. However, you need to prove just how based you are. I'm so sorry, but
you saying this in front of me feels like a crime.
Our analytical podcast where I say based
counter for this episode.
Yeah. No more editing. No in the like I feel like this is like CBT.
Catboy torture.
Like yeah. But like editing edition. Oh my god.
I'm exquisitely talented in the realm of torture, as you know.
I'm not doing a based counter. No counters this
Ding.
episode.
I just say game when you say base.
Lee making my job
Ding.
easier and harder for me.
You didn't say base, I just want to say ding.
But yeah, so we go to Sorkai. Okay, so Horace Veilgour's like, okay, well, you know what? I'm kind of moved, Aymeric, but I don't know if you guys are like worthy. And then we go do Sorkai. Beautiful fucking dungeon. Sorkai is even more beautiful than the vault, even though the vault had like the beautiful architecture. I think it's interesting that Sorkai and the vault have similar color schemes, but.
The theme to Sorkai is also called something like Apologies or something, which I think is also really interesting.
Ooh.
Because Sorkai,
I
think Sorkai is like on the ruins of like dragon and human society or something. I don't remember.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's in the Churning Mists near like where like
yeah, also in the middle of it a bunch of like baby dragons hatch and you have to kill them for some reason. I was like Mr. Horace Veilgour, aren't these your buddies?
I think the implication isn't you kill them. I think it's just that you beat them.
But like these babies just hatch though.
Okay, but like you know how like horses can run as soon as they're born?
Dragons can eat people as soon as they're born.
Yeah. Just like me. And so you go and do this trial, and Alphino and Aymeric go do like a trial off screen. It's very funny because Alphino comes back like very haggard. Yeah. And I really enjoyed the Horace Veilgour fight. Like I would say like up until that point, like me playing the game, I wasn't like really tuned into the actual gameplay aspect, but I really liked the Horace Veilgour part. Like that like kind of opened my eyes. I thought that the like arena with like the like Horace Veilgour could like destroy these like platforms that you'd have to be on to fight him. I thought that was really cool. I redid this dungeon kind of recently, so it's
to be honest, I have like bad memories of that dungeon because I got it so often, and I was like, it's at the point where like I did it too many times to enjoy it anymore. But I do admit it was pretty cool.
Yeah, you never get it in Rulies anymore. Yeah. So we do that, and we and Horace Veilgour's like, you know what?
You're based.
You kind of fuck. He's like, you know what, Wool? You kind of fuck. Let's go kill my brother. And then you do.
And you get like the coolest cutscene in the game. Sorry, the coolest cutscene in the game at the time.
Up until this point. Yeah, it's really like the Horace Veilgour versus Nidhogg fight walked so that the Shinryu versus Omega fight could run.
Honestly didn't pay attention during the Shinryu versus Omega cutscene.
What's wrong with you? We'll get to that.
I just didn't. It was like, oh, they're fighting. That's cool.
My fists like clenched like reflexively.
I know I'm not the only one who feels this way.
Shinryu versus Omega fight might still be the coolest cutscene in the game.
I respectfully disagree, although I do like the music.
Yeah, music sounds like FF12 music. Yeah. Play Final Fantasy 12.
I have friends who don't like the music either.
I like that scene because I was whatever. We'll get to it when we get to it. But the Hraesvelgr versus Nidhogg fight, it was really cool. It's like this long, segmented fight. These two dragons like flying through the air. The aerial combat. Okay, yeah,
that was a cool cutscene. I agree.
Yes.
I feel the reason why this landed so hard for me and Shinryu versus Omega didn't is because like one, we know Hraesvelgr. Like we're clearly rooting for someone here. And like at the end of the scene where Nidhogg like rises up and has one of Hraesvelgr's wings in his mouth, it's like, oh my god.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I would say there's a lot more emotional resonance.
Because you know, like I imagine like when I saw him get up with Hraesvelgr's wing in his mouth, I was like, no, you know.
I imagine with Omega versus Shinryu for people who play like other Final Fantasies, because Lee hasn't, you know, like we all know this. I imagine for them, because like I hadn't played like I didn't have like the emotional connection to Omega or Shinryu, so I imagine for those people it was really cool. For me, it was like pure spectacle. Like, if we're talking just, like, purely on, like, a technical basis, I think the Shinryu versus Omega fight was better.
It was like, very spectacularly appealing, but I also, like, didn't get anything out of it. You know what I mean? I was like...
I think part of it is also, I was so checked out in Heavensward, like, late Heavensward. Okay. Especially because I played it recently, and I was like, wow, like, this fight is, like, the best, like, the coolest thing. But this I was, like, angry. Like, I was like, wow, this sucks. Like, we got this, like, shot of Aymeric and, like, Sorkai, and it was, like, beautiful. Like, you know, all the yellow lighting and he looked so good. But my eyes, like, glazed over. My eyes glazed over when Aymeric was, like, my dad, and then, like, I just couldn't take it seriously, even though it was, like, supposed to be seriously. But I understand, like, there is more emotional weight in the Nidhogg
because
Hraesvelgr.
I was rooting for Hraesvelgr. I played that on content. So...
Yeah, I imagine. Like, the emotions you feel playing a game, playing 14 when it's on content is totally different than when it's, It was, like, not... Like, I'm talking about, like, the technicality. And I didn't have emotional attachment to the Nidhogg versus Hraesvelgr, so both of those were just pure spectacle for me. But again, the Nidhogg versus Hraesvelgr fight was the coolest fight up until then. So we get this cool fight, and then the dust settles, and we see, like, Nidhogg, like, on top of Hraesvelgr. It's not like Hraesvelgr's, like, kind of, like, I thought Hraesvelgr was dead, too.
I was like, no!
Yeah. I was like, holy shit. Yeah, I guess I was kind of like, holy shit, Wool has to do this on her own. And then, Nidhogg's like, blah, 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 and Hraesvelgr talks, and I'm like, so what happens is, like, that fight's really cool, and then, like, I don't know, like, Nidhogg says something to Hraesvelgr, and Hraesvelgr, like, talks, and it's like, okay, he's alive. And then, like, the camera cuts to you, and you have Hraesvelgr's eye.
So cool. And also you do the...
it was so cool.
The Heavensward trailer thing where you walk up the bridge while everyone else is running back. It's so
yes,
cool.
And it was I will say, like, no matter what, we are Wool loving ours here. Any scene where my Wool does something super cool, like the Wool was doing this like really like slow walk, and because I play on a F Mikode model, he had like quite the hip swing, and I was like, ooh, baddie moment, insta baddie. Yeah,
my dude just looked kind of like leisurely jogging, like not jogging, but like very leisurely walking up.
Yeah, and my Wool looked super fucking sexy, and my Wool was wearing the Slipstream Dragoon armor, which, like, I'll put it up on screen right now, but it's, like, this, like, heavenly, like, wings in the front, so it looked, like, really epic. And I was playing as a Dragoon! Oh my god, I was playing as a Dragoon, which like, heightened it for me, personally. Yeah. And so, and this is, like, where it comes in, where, like, your individual version of 14. I'm going to take a little bit of an aside. Your individual version of 14, I think, is really interesting to me, because I saw a comic, and it's, like, stuck with me. Like, a little tiny, like, 3-pager or something on Twitter. I don't remember who made it, but it was, like, this little tiny comic where the person did the the Dark Knight quests, right? It was like the end of like the 60 or the 70 ones, and they showed their like wool reacting to it, and then their wool immediately going to Costa del Sol to continue the Dancer quest.
Yes, I think I've seen that.
And like, yeah, it was funny and it was charming. It was kind of cute to think their wool needed like a warm vacation after the like cold of Ishgard or whatever. And it's like, that's their version of the experience of the story, and that's like really interesting to me. And that shows that like everyone has, like, aside from your character, everyone has their own custom crafted experience too, and I think that's neat.
I think it's
even without canon divergence.
I think it's one of the coolest things about Final Fantasy, because we have this sort of phenomenon in other games like Skyrim, obviously, like Skyrim, any kind of RPG, Dragon Age. We have this phenomenon a lot. People will like draw their own experiences, like their own player character experiences, but none of those games are MMOs. So we kind of have this situation where we exist, you know, next to other people who have much different experiences with the narrative, and I think it's kind of cool.
And this comes up, I think, in a bigger way in Shadowbringers, but I'm just like, I'm thinking like, what were you playing as when this happened?
The Heavensward one?
Yeah.
Scholar.
The
Scholar. I felt really dumb because my guy was walking out with a book, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm gonna beat this dragon with my book, which I can cast like 3 offensive spells with.
You could pretend that you were a summoner and feel really cool.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
I'll be right back. I'm so sorry. I should have gotten up when you were dealing with the cat. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. But yeah, I feel kind of bad saying this. Because Lee plays you play cast. Oh shit, my headphones fell.
I don't always play casters.
You play as casters, right?
But I don't really play melee very often, I guess.
But like I played as a Dragoon on my first game playthrough, and on my second playthrough I've been tanking. I switch between which tanks I play as, but I pretty consistently tank. And then I switch over to Monk at some point for some stuff.
I had an alt that was a tank, and when I was playing through the story on him, it was like, it felt like the much more canon experience, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I felt pretty immersed playing as a
this is
melee.
Also an issue. This is also why I didn't really take the story too seriously, because every time my character whipped out a book, I would instantly feel like loss of immersion, you know what I mean? Like people call the rule like very strong, you know what I mean? They're like, oh, you're so strong, please don't.
Ooh, your muscles.
Ooh, your muscles. Please don't eviscerate me. And it's like, but my character like has a book, so it's like, I don't know. I kind of wish I played as a tank at that time, and I would probably have enjoyed the story more.
Yeah,
this is something that I wish they would do.
Probably on Twitter.
I wish they would like say different things depending on whether or not your character is like a mage or a melee.
I wish as well, because like I was joking the other day, you might have seen this, Lee, that like we're never gonna get Caster Meteor because we just got Reaper, and he's gonna be Reaper in next X Pack. Like that's specifically why they made a new melee, so they could avoid making him a caster.
Funny. Yeah, I guess they've run out of melees except for Dragoon. They're not Dragoon.
Reaper and Gunbreaker.
No, there's Ninja.
Oh, there's Ninja as well. I can't imagine us being. I was thinking Summoner could work if we end up going to Dragon's Homeworld or Mericidia for 7.0, but I still feel like, not to be cynical, I've worked in marketing, this is why I'm saying this.
I understand why they're doing it, it's because it looks better for marketing.
Yeah.
Like, I get it.
It's a little disappointing, but I felt pretty immersed as a melee. Like, you know, Harshifon's like, ooh, this person, you should wear less clothes.
Every time Harshifon said that to my character, I was like a nerd wearing glasses or something. I was like,
But then, like, when I played through it recently as a tank, I felt it, like, even more. Even though you're already pretty immersed as a melee, but playing through Heavensward as a Dragoon makes it really heightens the experience. Likewise, playing through ARR as a warrior really heightened the experience. Playing through Stormblood as a monk really heightens the experience.
I played through Shadowbringers as a Dark Knight. That was on the alt, and it was really good. Like, that's where I was like, this feels way more canon than when I played it earlier.
Yeah, like, the story's pretty good about being, like, vague and loose with stuff, but
I think
there is a bit
with job stuff, that's probably the worst, like one of the worst places.
Yeah. Now that makes me want to play through Shadowbringers as a Dark Knight. Maybe I will. What's the Endwalker job? Paladin? Yeah. I could do Endwalker as a Paladin, but that would require playing Paladin.
I could too.
Sorry to all 5 Paladin mains.
Hey, I like playing Paladin.
Oh, I fucking hate it. I like Gunbreaker. Gunbreaker's fun. My favorite tank. Gunbreaker's fun because it feels like playing a melee.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. Anyways, so I was a Dragoon. I was in my Dragoon armor. My wool does his like little walk, and I wasn't wearing my funny, sexy glam. I was wearing a very modest glam. And like I had my spear out, like on my back, and you walk towards it, and then I complained that the song Dragon Song is really, really overused in 14, but they played it here to such perfect effect. Like, it starts playing at, like, your wool starts walking, and it shows, like, it shows their like, feet and legs, and you see, like, the other people running past you, and then you see, like, the top part of their body, like, the upper half, and they walk slowly, and, like, you hear the, like, piano notes, and she starts singing, like, in this, like, there's, like, a wide shot, and your wool is in the foreground, and Nidhogg and Hraesvelg are in the background. There's, like, a gap in the bridge where the bridge is broken, and you can hear the, like, part where the vocals would come in. No, the vocals do come in. The vocals don't come in the fight, but the vocals come in the cutscene.
Don't remember this.
And it's like, it was just really well directed.
But the thing I do remember is that the music from the cutscene carries over into the fight, so you can stand there in the like instance area. I don't think it's instance. Actually, yes, it is instance.
It is instance. Area, like, it is instance, and you can't go back. You can't go back
there. Yeah, on the broken bridge. I remember when this was launched, it was everyone doing it at the same time. So on the broken bridge, there's like a shit ton of people just standing there, like staring down Nidhogg on the other side, and the music is playing. And so you queue in, and when you queue in, the music doesn't like stop or anything; it just keeps going. It's so cool.
Yeah,
it's a really good detail.
Beautiful. And, like, the Nidhogg fight was pretty good, too. Like, if we're just talking about, like, the vanilla... I don't remember the EX fight. I haven't done it in so long.
My favorite is that he has moves called Hot Wing and Hot Tail.
So, you have the first phase, which is fine. And in the second phase, you fight Estinian Nidhogg, who just looks cool. Like, I have nothing deep to say. Oh, right! He does Stardiver, and Stardiver wasn't an attack that was available yet. Like, that's like a level 80.
We saw it. People thought it might be called, like, Final Chorus or something. So when it came out, it was called Stardiver. People were like, what? But, it works.
I think Final Chorus would be, like, Nidhogg's version.
But that is Nidhogg's version.
Right?
Because it's the same. It's
yeah,
the same
exactly.
Thing
and then Stardiver is like the wolves version.
I think that's why they had to change it so it doesn't sound too like Nidhoggy because you're a Dragoon, not a summoner.
We're the shepherd to the stars. That's why. Blah, blah, blah.
That title makes me feel
whatever.
insane.
It's such a good title. Shadowbringers is so fucking good. Anyways. So then you fight Estinian Nidhogg, and he uses like multiple. Like, he uses Spine Shatter Dive too, which is like an attack that you did have at that point.
Fang and Claw or something. Wheeling Thrust, I think he uses on you.
Yeah,
I think that's like
it's really like fun to like see him like list off the Dragoon moves.
Yeah, because it's like it really drives home the fact that you guys are in like the same discipline.
Yeah.
So you can like see him.
And this happens with like other enemies. Like I don't think they did it that much in Heavensward, but they do it like later.
A lot of Stormblood.
Like Asahi. If you play as a samurai, like Asahi and Xenos both use samurai moves at different points. Asahi in the solo duty where you fight the Kojin. If you like select him. Likewise, like Alize uses a lot of like red mage moves. Like actual ones. As opposed to just like random attacks. And God, there was the one that actually always gets me, and this isn't like a move you can use, is that every Garlean, almost every Garlean uses a similar move, but sometimes it's called one thing and sometimes it's called another thing. And so Gaius uses this attack first in Praetorium. It's like where he makes an X, and then like the X fires at you. And so when Gaius does it in Praetorium, he just slashes you in an X pattern, and that's called Innocence, right? Now when Fordola does it after Xenos gives her the Gunblade, it it like becomes an X and it fires at you. But it's still called Innocence, right? So it's like, this is a Gaius move. But later we see Varys. Varys in, like, you have to fight Varys in some side content way later.
It's like Dream
and
Varys.
Yeah, and it's the same move that Fordola did, but it's not called Innocence, it's called something else. Xenos also uses that move in like the solo duties. And I think it's like, I don't know, it's just I think that like sharing mechanics across fights and using it it's very subtle. Really, yes, it's like subtle narrative, like because I think the guy you fight in the Gunbreaker quest also uses the move, but I don't think it's called Innocence in that.
I don't think so.
And it makes sense because he's not in the 14th Legion, but it makes sense that Fordola would call it that. Yeah. I don't know. I think it's really neat when like doesn't like Reen way later, she uses like moves that like Thancred would use in solo duties, and I really like that too.
Like she'll do trick attack.
Yeah. Oh god, I really love it. And so having Estinian do that, it made me feel like really connected to the game again because I played as Dragoon.
I know it's
and
like,
it reminded
it's
you
silly to talk about immersion in MMO, but it's like stuff like that kind of ups the immersion factor. You know what I mean? And that's what I want, because I love Final Fantasy, I love Eorzea, and I love like feeling immersed in the world.
And it's kind of what makes me, again, angry that Estinian wasn't a great character, because he had so many of the makings of a great character, and then he just like fell short for me. And then it's like final form Nidhogg, and like it's all like red, right? Like it's like bright red, like he's glowing. Nothing like really special about that. Like, you know, you just kill him. I didn't play it on content, so it was a really easy fight. I played it before the Sprout boom too, so I was mostly playing with veteran players. Like, I think I was the only Sprout in the party. I was on Ether too, so, you know, lots of like really good players. And so I did that, and then there's the cutscene after that. That's a long fucking cutscene.
That's the one where Aymeric is like, cast it into the abyss, and it turns out to have been a very bad idea. Right?
Yes. But what happens is like, we get this like close shot of Stinian, and like we see that. I really like it when we get the close shot on the eyes, and they like make like a squish sound. It was so gross. They also did that when he turned into Nidhogg on the like bridge with Vidnafir. Yeah. But like, he, you know, he's like, he's like heavy breathing, you know, down on one knee, and Nidhogg's like, no, and then he like grabs his own neck, and he's like, fuck you, Nidhogg, and you know, he's like fighting with himself in his body, and
I like this trope.
Yeah, I do like that trope. Estien's like, Wool, kill me. And Wool and Alphino like look at each other, and they run to him, and then like they start pulling the eyes out of him because they're not gonna kill him, because they've already lost so many people. They're not gonna lose another person.
I like it a lot.
And I really like that Alphino like Wool, whatever. I'm so sorry, Wool pushes you away. I like that Alphino physically does it, because Alphino's like he's like
when he like falls off the ice, he like falls flat on his ass.
Yeah. Whereas like the Wool is like standing all cool. I really like that Alphino does it physically, and he does it like basically without hesitation.
This scene I could not take seriously, because the moment when there's like a cut to the Wool in the middle where you're trying to pull the eyes out, and my guy made like the funniest face ever, and I started laughing and I couldn't stop after that.
So good. Spain also made a fucking hilarious face.
It's like he like pursed his lips, but he looks really bad when he does that.
Oh god. Spain like grit his teeth, but his face was like really chubby, so it looked cute.
The Wool expressions are not always great.
But I liked that scene. I like that he's, like, obviously Haurchefant was your friend, he's gonna reach out to you, and Ezael's gonna reach out to Alphino, but I like that Ezael reached out to Alphino, because Alphino suggested he reach out to Ezael. My fifis. I'm thinking about it. That he reached out to her. Like, she joined our party because of him, and now she's reaching out to him. And also, Alphino, at the beginning of ARR, he was this snooty boy who saw you as his, like, errand boy, and, like, you would do shit for him. And now he's quite literally getting his hands dirty. I love bookend, Alphino, perfect boy. And then you see Harshiphant, and Ezel's ghost basically. She grabs the eye, and then Harshiphant's grabs yours. And this is a very like Japanese storytelling thing, that a spirit can't move on from this life until, and that like ties into like the Buddhism reincarnation thing we've talked about before, until they've like fulfilled like a purpose. Like I always think of like Anohana, which like that's literally like the plot of the whole story, is that like there's this friend group, and when they were like 6, like one of the girls in the friend group died, and now she's back as a ghost. And she has like a wish she needs fulfilled to like move on to the afterlife. Very common sentiment. So it's like Harshiphant and Ezel not being able to move on until they knew we would be okay. That is quite emotional. And I know everyone's like, Harshiphant, Ezel, of course. And it's just like, I really like that part.
I like it too.
Yeah, and then you pull the eyes, and
it felt like really good closure for their character arcs, even though Ezel died in kind of a way that I'm not really a fan of. You know what I mean?
I don't like how she died. I feel like there just wasn't enough accountability in her arc. Because, like, people forget that she did so many bad things because there's no accountability to the bad thing she did. Because we don't really see the effects of it. Like,
yeah, nobody is like Ice Heart's heretics, like, invaded my village and killed my entire family or something like that. Even though it almost surely happened. Yeah, and we don't really get, like, oh, I'm a former heretic and now Iceheart is dead and I don't know what to do with myself. One.
Like, we don't get characters
there's
like
one.
that either.
Yeah, there's one in the...
Where?
There's one in the firmament. He's already turned into a dragon. He can't turn back. And he's back to visit his wife and child, who he abandoned to become a heretic. And he's
shit.
Like, can you please take me back? And so she's having trouble reconciling that. Also, he looks like a monster now. Like, he's just like a dragon. And...
I love that. Oh, yes, I know what you're talking about. I need to do firmament.
You do your best. He used to be a craftsman, so you make him some like dragon-sized tools or whatever, something like that. And he starts, making things for like the people, because people can't trust him either because he looks like a dragon. Like the cultural awareness of dragons in Ishgard is literally straight up like, do not trust. They will eat you. They'll kill your entire family, which is true. Like, it does happen. Everyone. Like, I can only say that everyone who's anyone in Ishgard either knows someone who was killed by a dragon or knows someone who, has a loved one who died to dragons. So, like, the fact that nobody can trust this guy because he's shaped like a dragon is really, yeah. And so then you give him some tools and he starts making things for the people in the firmament. And eventually they start trusting him, and they're like 2 NPCs who completely were like, we can never trust a dragon. And they like eventually show up, they're just like, oh, you have a commission for him? Like, me too. So I really like that. I think it's really good. Firmament quests were good.
Well, that's nice. I'm glad they did that.
Firmament quests were good.
I'll comment on it more.
That was
like,
this is Shadowbringers content, even though it's Ishgard content. Yeah. So, but I do think that Firmament quests are really good closure on a lot of what Heavensward set out to do.
I'm glad. But yeah, they pull away, and I think this, okay, while I was praising some of the direction of the scene, I actually do think this cutscene's like just a little bit silly, because I think everyone was under animated, except Estinian. Like, Alphino and the Wool were both very severely under animated.
No, the Wool's always under animated. Smile.
But Alphino was too, so it ended up coming off very silly. They pull away, and Alphino falls flat on his ass, and then Amrek's like, cast the eyes
and
into the abyss.
And everyone makes fun of him for this.
Okay. Yes, I am defending Amrik from the fandom, for once. Everyone's like, Amrik was a dumbass for this. But the thing is everything that falls into that abyss, like, that's Haloni. That is the Fury. That is literally God to them.
It's not just literally God's domain, like, if you don't want to believe in Aryan religion. But that down there is like an ethereal storm, basically. Like, the aether down there is not conducive to life. Like, you probably couldn't.
It's like the burn.
Yeah,
but
no,
worse.
you probably couldn't survive down there. Like, nobody could survive down there. So basically, Amrik was like, no human person could ever grab these. It's fine. The issue is that there are non-human persons seeking to do bad things on Heidel all the time.
Like, even when...
Amrik probably didn't take that into account, because why would he?
Yeah, like, we, the audience, didn't know how powerful the Ascians were
Yeah.
at that point. Like, let alone
like, Aymeric.
anyone else. Yeah, let alone Aymeric, who barely knows what an Ascian is. Like, if the Scions didn't know how the fuck would Aymeric know? Like,
he
Aymeric
probably
was
knows
just...
to the extent that he knows they were influencing his father, and that's probably it.
Because, like, the thing is, like, if we hadn't thrown the eyes, there's very much the possibility Nidhogg could just come back. Because so long as the eyes are intact, Nidhogg can come back, right? It would be really funny if the eyes got, like, super weakened and Nidhogg came back as, like, the same size as, like, Ornkai. Yeah, like, Ornkai size. That would be so cute.
I would like baby Nidhogg.
Baby, but he's still, like, an old man.
Yeah, he's, like, mad at you. But now he's, like, cute and small.
So you do that. And then you get the panning shot of Yzael and Haurchefant, and they fade away. And there's been so much fan art of this shot because it's good.
It is a good shot.
It's good. And then Aymeric walks up to Estinian. I really like this line. It was very self-aware. He's like, I know I've been a useless sack of shit this whole time, but at least let me do this much. And he, like, lifts up Estinian. And I think the implication is, like, the wool was trying to pick up Estinian, and, like, okay, for your wool, it's fine. Kind of. I mean, your wool's a caster, but, like, it's kind of fine, because size relativity, you know, your wool could pick up Estinian and not look, like, stupid doing it. Smain, it would look a little silly, but it could still happen. But, like, I'm imagining someone with, like, a Lalafell wool.
This is
like,
the
they would
reason
look
why
fucking
they couldn't
moronic.
I mean, there's also, like, this is kind of going a bit ahead, but in Stormblood, there's, no, it's Stormblood? Yeah, the Gimlet Dark, the Gimlet Dark has, like, this one moment where your character passes out, and, Estinian carries you away. Like, it's basically said that Estinian, like, princess carries you to safety. And I was like, why didn't they show it? Because they do show the aftermath, which is absolutely fucking hilarious. It's Estinian talking to Aymeric, and your character is, like, face down, flat on the ground. And it's like, Estinian!
Thanks,
but
Graha.
that's because Estinian, like, can't be animated carrying you, because there's so many different, like, player shapes and sizes that it won't work.
Well, it wasn't animated.
Yeah, it was a still shot of your character, like, flat down on the ground, which I also thought was hilarious. But I also do think, like, the reason is probably that they can't animate. They can't really animate characters animating with the wool, like, interacting, like, physically with the wool almost ever.
I'm so sorry. That scene was so stupid. Why did they take us back to Ishgard?
Which one? Oh, the one where the wool wakes up in Ishgard? Yeah, I was like, isn't that, like, really far away? What?
I, like, replayed this, like, 3 days ago,
like,
so...
comatose for how long? Like, they loaded them, like, on an airship and just went to Ishgard, which is, like, not the closest city-state by, like, a very large margin.
I saw a Twitter post about this. Someone was like, and I've adopted it into my canon since. Sorry to soapbox, but someone was like, Xenos should have saved you, like Ella Xenos, and I'm like, how fucking cool would it be if he was, like, in the Resistance body and just, like, dropped you off at Porta Praetoria, and he, like, gave, like, Elidibus, like, the stink eye, and that's why Elidibus was like, ah, Xenos, at, like, the end of Shadowbringers. Like that would have worked. And, like, they would have dropped us off at Porta Praetoria. The Gimlet Dark is, like, right there. Because, like, okay, the thing is, like, I forgot about this scene. We go to, like, look at Xenos' grave, right? In Alamigo, like, because, you know, he's running around in the Empire. And, like, we're like, oh, Xenos isn't there. First of all, that grave was not big enough to fit his model, which I think is very
it's so funny. Like, when I went there, and they were like, this is Xenos' grave. And I was like, it is?
Is it? Okay, so, like, Ella Xenos is, like, I forgot about this.
Ella
like,
Xenos was so funny because it barely felt like a plot point. Like,
But, like, he was there. Yeah. Like, he was on a rock, like, watching you open his grave, assumedly to go get his body. But it was so
and he's just like,
fucking funny.
Yeah.
Because when I saw that Twitter post, I had forgotten about that scene. I was like, okay. So, like, maybe Xenos doesn't want to see us before the final battle. But he literally saw us! Like what the fuck? I don't know. I understand why they, like, chose Estinian, because fan favorite, and Aymeric and Estinian got so little fanfare during Stormblood. And I do think it was a fan service.
Well,
straight up. I think it was just fan service.
My character be princess carried by Mr. Estinian, and I didn't get that. So Final Fantasy XIV is a bad game. Actually.
This is literally how people critique this game. This is literally how some people critique it.
This is our literary critique podcast, and I think Final Fantasy XIV is a bad game because Estinian didn't carry my wool.
You're not valid. But yeah, so Aymeric, like, princess carries him, and there was, like, a really funny fan art where, like, someone drew, like, Aymeric, like, holding, like, a lobster, like, a very large lobster, because that's kind of what that screenshot looks like.
I think I've seen it, yeah. He does look like a lobster.
Yeah. And then you go back to Ishgard, and you go talk to Dad Fortomps, and he gives you the shield then. He's like, you're, like, an honorary...
Yeah.
Fortomps.
I like that.
And... I did too. And that's when Artoirel is like...
That's when Artoirel is like,
you go talk
I like you like a brother.
He friends
like
him. Yeah, he was like, oh, you're like a sister to me. And I was like, dude, I want your dick. Don't say that.
No, there was like, I saw... Sorry, this is very recent, so whoever drew it may be listening. But I saw this comic, well, my friend sent it to me. And it was like, someone at that scene where Arturel is like, I think of you like a brother, like I'm sure Harshaphon also thought of you like a brother, and the person is just like thinking about their character like digging down Harshaphon and being like, don't say
that!
My
god, I've seen that! That. Oh my god.
It made me laugh.
I think one of my mutuals drew that actually. So if you're listening,
you know everyone on Twitter, Noah.
It's very funny. I really don't, I promise. I don't think that the person who drew it listens to our podcast though, but if you are, hey,
it made me laugh.
Anyways, it was very funny. Yeah, it's good. Artoirel is the biggest idiot in the world. Anyways, so then he's like, oh yeah, like you're like, where's Alphino? It's like, oh, he's at the infirmary. He's at the hospital. So you go there, and
you get to see Estinian's beautiful like plastic surgery face.
I'm gonna put such a good. I am going to send you an image right now on Discord. Right now, and you have to repeat that statement. You have to repeat the statement that you're
gonna send me a picture of a stain that you think looks ugly, and I'm going to tell you that he looks fine. I like this picture.
I also like this picture. I'm putting it on screen for the audience.
I feel like this a lot whenever my friends send me bad tweets.
That's so funny. You know, I'm gonna think about this.
Okay, I said this to someone else, but I think Estinian Wormblood looks like a senior backend engineer, and I cannot elaborate this.
I think you said that to me.
I can't elaborate on this. You just have to know what a senior backend engineer looks like.
That's so funny.
Because almost every one of them I know looks like this.
The twins' dad and Estinian look almost the same. But for some reason, like, my brain is like, Estinian's ugly and the twins' dad is hot. I guess it's because we saw him in the trailer. And he was very handsome in the trailer. I guess Estinian was also in the trailer, and he was also handsome in the trailer.
His cum.
But I don't want to think about Estinian being handsome. Like, imagining... I like to think of Estinian as being, like, a relatively average-looking guy who looks bad because he doesn't take care of himself. Like... I'm gonna be real. He's much more appealing when I think about him like that. When I think about him as like an anime bishonen, I'm like, I don't like it.
I mean,
like, yeah. Aymeric can be an anime bishonen, and he looks good. Xenos can be an anime bishonen. I know people who disagree with you on that. Well, he is an anime bishonen. Like, you know, they kind of can't disagree with me on that because he's
no
visually he's the Sephiroth.
I know, I agree with you. I think he's like the Sephiroth like stand-in, like or at least inspired.
Like what I'm saying is like he and Aymeric were intentionally designed to be pretty boys. I don't think that's a contentious statement. Now whether you find them to be pretty boys is different, but like they were I don't think Estinian was designed to be a pretty boy though. Because, like, even his, like, Endwalker render, he doesn't, like, if you look at Xenos and then you look at Estinian in the Endwalker render, like, Estinian looks, like, really, like, manly and, like, grizzled, whereas, like, Xenos looks like Avril Lavigne. Like, he's very, like, beautiful and, like, soft-looking.
I think you may be biased.
No, like, he has, like, he has, like, the very, like, sharp jawline, like, Japanese, like J-pop stars do, like, male J-pop stars, and he has, like, the, like, really, like, defined eyelashes and eyebrows. Like, you know, he's very much designed to be, like, beautiful. Because, like, he has the serene, dissonant beauty. Like, beautiful, but, like, insane and violent. Like, that's, like, his character design ethos. But, like, the character design ethos behind Estinian is, like, if you look at his, again, at his Endwalker render, because, like, okay, even though he's really handsome in the Endwalker render, and so is Fortunal, they do look different from each other. Like, Estinian has a much more, like, wide and handsome jaw, and he has, like, smaller eyes and lips, and, like, a much more, like, pronounced, like, nose and cheekbones, right? So he looks, like, rough, and he has, like, a little bit of, like, a stubble texture. So, like, whereas, like, Xenos has, like, a smooth face. Like, I 100% believe Estinian was not designed to be a pretty boy.
They did.
So when I see, like, fan art...
They made his face look better, because it used to have, like, big fat lips, and they got rid of them. You know, better... I
like his big lips, so... I like his dusk white face more. That said, that's not Estinian. Like, I respect the artist's decision to change it. But, like, yeah, the big lips are, like, they're pretty, right? And, like, the thin lips make him look more grizzled. Like, that's just what it comes down to again. The thin lips are quote-unquote manlier.
No, they remind me of, like, white people. Like, British people.
Like...
Can I say that?
That's funny. Yeah, you can, that's fine. Don't worry, British people don't exist.
Like British, like, politicians who have, like, inverted lips. I don't know how to say this.
That's really funny. I understand what you're saying. I understand. But, like, Estinian's, like, the sort of grizzled, messy guy to Aymerich's pretty boy, to Haurchefant's, like, midpoint, right? Like, I do think Estinian was, like, even as, like, his hair is messy, he has, like, the prominent under-eye bags, his skin, like, even though he has the same, like, level of darkness of his skin tone as Aymeric does, like, his skin is kind of sallow, so it's, like, it seems like he doesn't get, like, much sun.
He definitely looks like he doesn't take care of himself enough.
Yeah, and I like that about him. I like that about Estinian's character design, so when I, like, in a lot of art, like, even in my own art, I have this problem, because I like drawing pretty boys, but, like, I often see he's, like, a little bit, like, groomed in art. Like, fan art. And, like, people just make him, like, a Bishonen. But I don't think that was the intention of the authors. Like, of course people are gonna make every character a Bishonen. Because everyone's horny. But, like, I don't think that was the authorial intent. Because there's so many little details. Plus his official renders. I like how we
spent this long talking about how we think Estinian is, like, doesn't bathe or something.
Dumpy? I think he bathes. I just think he's kind of dumpy.
Yeah.
But I like that.
I like it too.
It makes him more, like, down to earth.
I like it too. I think it matches
like,
up with his character. We spent so long. Like, wait, we're at 50 minutes now.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Audacity, like, thing go. Like, Aymeric is the Lord Commander, and Xenos is, like, the Viceroy of Alamigo. Like, of course they're going to be these, like, if they're gonna be young guys, they're gonna be over-the-top pretty boys because, A, they're in a really unique position, and, like, their relation to the rest of the cast, it's really important, right? And I think that makes Estinian a more down-to-earth and relatable character, because, like, Aymeric and Xenos' character arcs and pathos, whatever they were trying to write, those aren't things that the common person can relate to. But even though Estinian's, like, literal conflict is larger than life, his personal conflict, it's very petty and small potatoes, and we can all relate to it. I think this is also why Izael has a more inhuman design, because her conflict is also less commonly relatable to us. And, like, I think about, like, Lise later on, right? I think about, like, Lise, and I wouldn't say she's, like, ugly, because I think she's cute, but she definitely looks more, like, normal than, like, fucking Yotsuyu, for example. And again, I think that just, like, making a character... Like, of course, Estinian and Lise are both, like, beautiful. Like, if they were, like, real people, and they had those, like, you know, they had, like, such, like, symmetrical faces, and, like, such, like, good proportions. Like, of course, they would be fucking stunning in real life. But, like, relative to their, like, in-game universe, neither of them are especially stunning. And I like that, because they have the more down-to-earth stories. I think that, like, makes a lot of sense. Helps with Estinian that you can literally make him in CC. So he is literally just, like, any other guy.
I like that for him.
Yeah. And so, So we see him in the hospital. I don't know. Character design is really interesting to me. So I like to like talk about it. I think about like your guy and his story, right? Like your guy's kind of a normal guy, and he kind of has like a normal story. And I like your guy, but he's like a little dumpy.
You're just gonna call him dumpy on the... Yeah, he's dumpy.
Yeah.
I think this is probably just like a shared problem.
It's a little dumpy. Yeah, it might be. I don't know. I'm endeared to him, but like how do I say? He looks normal, right? Like he looks normal. He's not actually dumpy. I love him. He's my sexy little man. No, he's not. I feel disgusting saying
so sorry, Noah.
Whereas like I depict my own Wool as like larger than life, beautiful. And that's because his story is this like very like ostentatious, crazy, wacko thing, right? And I mean that's just like one example of character design. I think you and we could do like a whole episode about character design. Yeah. But yeah, so you're in this, you go to the room and it's so cute that like Alphino, he's like asleep at like Estinian's bedside. I love Alphino. He's become this like empathetic and caring person. And again, like the fact that Alphino is willing to dirty his hands and pull the eyes, and like I know it's like haha he fell flat on his ass because he's like baby. But like when we think about it, even here, like he's on the floor, like he could be on a chair asleep next to Estinian, but no, they put him on the floor, right? And there's the emotional weight of like he wanted to be at his bedside no matter what. But like they could have put him like they could have had him like seated on the bed falling asleep in a kind of halfway kind of way. They could have like
they chose to emphasize his like childishness there, I guess. It's like a kid.
His smallness and his childishness.
Kid, like, sleeping next to their parents' bed or something.
But I was thinking more like they literally physically are lowering him, but he chose to lower himself in all those cases. And again, like in ARR, he acts like he's higher than everyone. And like I think that visual hierarchy, I think while a lot of people don't call it out when they discuss Heavensward, like I've never seen someone talk about this except in my funny little Discord chats of like 4 people. But like I think that like in the back of our heads, it did stick. It also helps that, like, because the camera is lowering him, we are unless you play a Lalafell, like, most people are going to be looking down at him, and that makes him seem even more childish and cute. That makes you want to, like, protect him and stuff. And it shows that he's, like, become humble. I think part of growing up is being able to accept your childishness, and that really shows with Alphino. Alize hasn't gotten there yet.
She's pretty,
But yeah, so Estinian's like, man, revenge is kind of fucked, isn't it, guys?
There's the moral of the story. We did it, everyone.
Yeah, this is like one of the spirit of Heavensward manifesting, grabbing my throat, and is like, do you understand my themes? And I'm like, yes, I do. I understood them like 40 quests ago. I've understood this since the Aerie. Why is Estinian suddenly emotionally intelligent again?
Well, he almost died.
Why does he keep flip-flopping? I guess so. I did like I played in JP. I liked his voice actor's delivery. I think Estinian's voice actor is fucking fantastic. Amric just kind of stands there like a loser. It's very funny. A lot.
We're kind of harsh on him.
Yeah, he does do that a lot. That's why it's so good when Amric like lifts Estinian. He's like, at least let me do this much. Like, I forgive Estinian because at least he's like proactive. Amaric's just like useless. Oh yeah, Amric like asks you out to dinner. Like
there's
between
so many
all
plot
of
points in Heavensward that we just like forgot all of them.
Yeah, I'm so sorry we didn't talk about the Crystal Braves. That was pretty much resolved when we saved like Raban. Yeah, like pretty much. But yeah. So Amric like asks us like off screen, and like the Wool like makes like a face. It's so funny. Because, like, how I read it was like, oh god, you're really asking me to go to dinner with you? Haurchefant, like, just died, dude. Like, that's how I read it. Haurchefant was, like, my man. Like, really? Like, that's how I felt. Because the Wool does look, like, offended. And, like, Amric brings up that Haurchefant died recently. Like, he audibly brings it up. So it's like, oh, shit. It was, like, really awkward.
Oh, god.
But yeah, after this... Wait, I think after this first you do, like, the Grand Company.
Yeah, and that part also makes me laugh, because, Thancred shows up and he's like, oh, they're making you do their fucking work for them again, and your wool doesn't even deny it. You just kind of like shrug at him. It's so funny. He's right.
And then like it's like this big like battle of the Grand Companies, like in good faith, and you fight Raban.
And that's where you get battle stands. We didn't have battle stands before that. I remember when we got it and everyone was like, woo, cool. Yeah, we didn't have it before.
And Emmanuel participates, so this is like where his arc closes. Like he was like really nervous, and then he's like, you know what, that kind of fucked, and that slapped, and I like it. And then Americ's like, oh, wool, and then Thancred's like, that guy really likes you, doesn't he? And I was like, you shut the hell your mouth, Thancred Waters.
Thancred is so funny.
Don't even start.
Please. It's so much.
Heavensward Thancred was so funny. He's like, and he was so depressed.
Yeah, he's funny because he's depressed. I'm sorry, Mr. Thancred.
And then we go to dinner with Americ. And okay, that scene had a few good little things in it, but I didn't like it for the most part. Mostly because I don't want to be... I've been on enough dinner dates with men with no personality. I don't need another one. Like, I was like, if this is supposed to be a power fantasy, I feel very disempowered right now. Because you have no choice to reject it. And like, okay, I'm so sorry to inform you of this, like, discourse.
You telling me about discourse right here?
Yeah, right here on the podcast. Okay. Like, I haven't, like, prepared you or anything. There's currently, like, a discourse going around, I guess on Twitter, about, like a game came out, and I think it, like, addresses, like, domestic violence. Like, it's, like, a theme of the game or something. Don't take my word on this. Don't take my word on this, anyone who's listening. I'm just using this as, like, an example to segue into another point. But basically, there's, like, a discourse that's, like, you should be able to opt out. And I agree, you should be able to opt out of triggering content for accessibility purposes. Hold on, I'm so sorry. But, like, the domestic violence is actually, like, really central to the, like, storyline. So, you know, I don't think it should be opt-out. Like, as an artist, I'm saying it shouldn't be opt-out. Just don't consume the work.
You could put a warning on it, but, yeah.
Yeah. And so, and, like, obviously, like, a dinner date with Americ is, like, not triggering or anything, but like I understand the artistic vision of making you have dinner with Americ, and I respect that. So when I'm saying I want to opt out, I'm speaking on my wool's behalf. I'm not like, oh, it should just be removed. Like, it just should be content that doesn't exist. Like, no, it's fine. It's fine that they included it. It's actually fine. Because, like, it's not actually a date. Like, you know, you could just be friends.
Yeah.
Could just be a friendly dinner.
That's how I interpreted it. That it was just a friendly dinner.
There's, like, a few nice little things. Like, Americ asks you, like, several questions.
Yeah, and you get to talk about it.
And you, like, can answer them.
You get to actually choose.
And I thought that was neat.
Also, the butler pours the wine and you stare at him.
Yes, that was nice.
That made me think that something was
really
gonna fucking happen. Like, I thought, oh my god, Americ's gonna get fucking poisoned, but no.
Are we gonna finally get some delivery on evil Americ? But we didn't. Well, no, it was just kind of like boring.
Yeah.
Like, that's how I felt.
Like, the
Wool I'm like, why did this need to be here?
So many, like, close relationships with, like, heads of state. And I find that really funny because, like, if I'm gonna...
Well, the Wool is the world's top mercenary.
If I'm gonna, like, talk about it, a lot of hero stories have the heroes working for, you know, like, the heads of state, like, the power structure, the current people in power. And so the Wool is not really an exception. The Wool is, you know, pretty much exactly the same. Where you're friends with, like, all the heads of state and you do stuff for them. And I think that's really, really funny, you know, because
it's pretty funny. It is pretty funny. I agree.
Like, you know, not to say that a hero can't, a hero can't do those things, but that I think, you know, it's such a part of the trope that sometimes we accept it without even thinking.
Yeah. So Americ, God, what does he do after that? Your date gets, like, interrupted.
Oh yeah, because Alizé.
Yeah, and this is where Alizé is, like, reintroduced to the story. And she's, like, poisoned and injured, and Alphino is, like, at her side. He's like, what the fuck? Because, like, he just almost lost Justinian, and now he almost loses his sister.
Yeah,
what the fuck?
Sad. Often going through it.
Yeah, and she's, like, they, like, call the doctors, and, like, Thancred, like, tells you, like, what happened, and it's, like, Ardbert, the warrior of darkness, who we have met at this point, because Thancred, like, saved us from him, like, way early on. God, so much
shit happened in Heavensward, and almost none of it felt related to each other, which is why a lot of it feels very, like, unfocused and weird.
Yeah, like, this is Shadowbringer's setup in Heavensward. And so this is where, like, the Heavensward stuff kind of drops off, and this is where we get into the pre-Stormblood. Like, I would say a 0.3 patch.
That's the end. Yeah, that's
is
the end.
Pretty much the cutoff.
They have said explicitly that that's, like, the end of the actual X-Pack.
Yeah. And so Ardbert, like, injured her. We get, like, the flashback, and then, like, Allie... Then we have to, like, go... Like, she learns some information, and that they're, like, trying to summon, like, the primals. So we have to go to Zelphatol, which is, like, an Ixal stronghold. And they, like, to prevent, like, Garuda's summoning. We meet Ardbert there. He says some cryptic shit. There is an Elizin with him, an extra Elizin. There is an extra Elizin with him. Mm-hmm. Like, aside from, like, the people we saw before, there's another person. And Ardbert's just, like, he says some cryptic shit about the first us. He's like, don't you think we also lost everything? And then he, like, fucks off. And then what happens? Gosetsu shows up? Oh my god.
Welcome to Heavensward being absolutely insane.
Like, Gosetsu shows up, like, at the Waking... Well, this is pre-Stormblood. It's just, like, they were also doing pre-Shadowbringers at the same time. There's, like, a lot of, like, stuff in actual, like, pre-3.3 that we just, like, did not cover. Because there's just so much. But Gosetsu shows up at the Waking Sands. He, like, passes out. Everyone's like, whoa! Like, all the random
like, Jesus
people.
Christ. And,
Urianger, like, takes him in.
I was like, how the fuck did he get here? And it's like, he just literally, like, sailed here in that little sailboat.
That's pretty funny.
Insane.
That's pretty base.
Ding!
And then we get, like, the encampment, and that's where, like, Ida and Papalimo have been, and there's, like, it's like a Alamigan, like, refugee camp, and there's, like, a leader, and I think it's kind of neat that they have, like, this kind of, basically a terrorist leader. Like, it's like, we gotta go, like, and do all this shit, and it kind of, like, made me think of Yzael. Yeah. Like, I was like, oh, like Yzael. And, like, that's what I thought.
Also, like, you know, at some point I think Thancred comments on how weird it is. Like, he's, like, someone comments on how it feels bad. Like, the
yeah. Stuff. Yeah. Well, that happens after we, like, reunite with them. Like, this is just a cutscene. So go into, I think we're in, like, 0.5 now. Like, 0.4 is, like, all the Zelphatol, like, everything. I said it really fast. Because
Zelphatol was also, like, super, like...
0.5.
It was pretty minimal.
Yeah, it sucked. I hate getting it in roulettes. So we're in 0.5. We meet up with Ardbert and them again. And there's, like, a solo duty. And it's, like, you and your friends versus Ardbert and his friends. And at the end, you see Minfilia, right? But she's, like, Heidelin's mouthpiece. And, like, Ardbert tells us his whole thing, that, like, his world was, like, destroyed, and the Asians are, like, what if you couldn't even die? Yeah. Like, that's how fucked up it was. And he's like, we just want the chance to, like, die.
God won't let
us
die.
Like, that's literally it. Yeah, it was like really...
Super,
it made me so sad.
I won't call it funny, but I guess it's ironic in retrospect, because after you send them back, Ardbert literally doesn't get to die for another 100 years.
Yeah. But, like, Minfilia and, like, Heidelin through Minfilia is like, don't worry, I'll take care of it. And then she, like, sends them back. And I know it's like, oh god.
This is something that I want to think about, which is not super related to Heavensward, but I guess since we're talking about Ardbert, I suddenly just thought about it. Arbert's story is really, like, fucking tragic, you know what I mean? Like, I mean...
Yeah, we'll talk about it more
I'm,
in
like,
Shove,
thinking, because he's the, you know, he's, like, the hero before you, and now he kind of, like, is in you in a weird way. But, he was the hero before you, and he had, like, such a terrible fate that it's, like, where is the world gonna end up? You know what I mean? I get that feeling.
Yeah, oh my god, you're right.
Because
holy shit.
They've said before that one of the themes, I guess, that they were going for is, like, the things heroes have to give up to be heroes. And you know what Arbor gave up was a happy life. Entirely. So, thinking about where we're going. Don't know.
Yeah, it's really, like...
It is sad.
Oh god, I hope Endwalker delivers. But like, Ardbert wasn't even like, oh, we want our, like, world back. Like, he was literally like, we just want the option to die, because we literally don't have that option. And I'm like, bro, what was going on the... Like, I assume what he meant was, like, people were turning into Sin Eaters and stuff. So Minfilia takes him back, and as we know, like, she stops the flood of light. Like, she goes back and stops the flood of light. But she's like, I finally, like, hear you. And Thancred is like... he sees her, and that part was really emotional for me, because we get, like, a scene of Thancred, I think, infiltrating, like, one of the castrums with, like, Kryl, very briefly, and he's like, says, like, he's like, oh, Minfilia and I weren't like that, she was, like, a sister to me, and if you know, like, his whole thing, like, he's known Minfilia since, like, they were, like, teenagers, so...
Thancred's whole
really
story is that he feels
and...
responsible for what happened to Minfilia, so he has been trying to be, like, a responsible, like, sibling figure to her ever since.
Yeah.
So now
and
she's like, she's kind of like, you know, like, he can't protect her. She's literally like God's secretary now.
Yeah, and the fucked up part about that, first of all, there's an art that was released like
she's like, I remember this art. It's the one where she's like tangled up,
entangled.
Right? I remember this.
That's
I remember
really
this
spooky.
because when it came out, Yoshi was talking on like the live letter, being like, there were 3 versions of this art, and it was, you know, it was boob size, like small boob Minfilia, medium boob Minfilia, and large boob Minfilia, and he was like, I picked the medium one. I remember this. It was funny. It was very
based
funny.
Yoshi P. Like Thancred, like she like says something. I don't remember what she specifically said, like, oh, Thancred. And then she says something, he just looks so heartbroken. She like, it had to be a custom animation.
She said that to him, like, as Minfilia. Like, I think she, like, blinks in for a second, like, she looks like regular Minfilia, not God's secretary.
Well, she still has the fucked up eyes, but her, like, expression
but her expression changes.
It's so emotional. And then she, like, leaves, and it's just
That's
so
the last
sad.
time he ever sees her.
God.
Like, ever.
No, he sees her in Amarang, remember?
Like, sort of, but I think that's the last time he, like, gets to talk to her. Isn't it?
No, because he... This is why he has, like, the strain with, Reen, because he took Reen there, like, before we came to the first. He went to that spot in Amarang,
I don't remember this at all. Sorry, Mr.
But, like, this is the first time in, like, a really, really long... Like, this is the last time for, like, 5 years from his perspective, basically, so... Yeah. Because one time he goes to see her before we get to the first, so maybe it hasn't been 5 years. And then one time he sees her when, like, Minfilia and Reen fuse. But... Okay, so... Oh, God. Like, the Minfilia stuff in Heavensward makes me emotional. Because that's, like, this moment where that's also when we learn, like, Urianger's been doing, like, espionage. Yeah. Oh my god. There's so much.
So many plot points in Heavensward.
Because he, like, takes off his mask. And then we reunite with, like, Papalim and Ida. Like they're all like, ooh, we've heard signs, and, like, I think Papalim and Ida are here. And then we, like, meet with them, and we learn, like, what's going on with, like, the Griffin. And then we have to, like, go deal with the Griffin, because they want to, like, invade Alamigo. I guess it's not terrorism. It's more like a individual, like, pushback.
Yeah,
against the Garlean Empire. So that's not really terrorism.
Because they were like, nobody's prepared for an all-out assault against the Garleans or something like that.
Yeah. Now, obviously, because the La Habrea, not La Habrea, one of the Asians, I think Elidibus, gave Ilberd Nidhogg's eyes. And I think the attack had to be made because people still needed to be sacrificed. Like, I just don't think there was enough Aether in the eyes alone at that point, because a lot of it had been used.
I think that's how it
Not all of it, but there was... Yeah, so there needed to be sacrifices, because, like, we go do Balzer's Wall. Like, there's a huge wall in between Gridania and Alamigo that's called Balzer's Wall. Because, you know, Gaius took over Alamigo. We go there, and Ilberd is, like, we learned the Griffin is Ilberd. It was really obviously him, but the Griffin is Ilberd. And he commits suicide at the end, and it's like, really violent and well-directed.
It's a very, like, violent death. Like, I think that's probably one of the bloodiest scenes in Final Fantasy XIV. There's this audible, like, wet crunch when he lands on the floor, and then you see his, like, face, which looks, like, it's disturbing because it's a dead man's face. And, like, his eyes are, like, rolled back. Yeah. There's, like, blood coming out of his nose and his mouth. Like, he's dead. He died with, like, an audible wet crunch, and then you see his face immediately after. It's really, like, probably, like, one of the most graphic scenes in all of Final Fantasy. And I think it was good. It was good that it was graphic.
there was another scene like right before this, which I think was even worse because they didn't show what happened. Where there's like some kids like in Bales as well, like kids, children, like they're like implied to be like very young, like Fordola's age, Arenvald's age, and they're like, yes, we're finally pushing back against the Garleans, and then like a big robot shows up and like kills like two of them, and then the one like girl who's left, she's like, how are we supposed to fight back against something this strong? And then like there's this like shot where we just see like the robot thing like stabbing down over and over, and it's like implied to be stabbing her, but like we don't see it. And it's just so brutal. Yeah. Like the way the robot's animated. I'm just like, it's brutal because it's so mechanical, and it's obviously like harming a organic life. I think there's certain scenes where they only use like mechanical imagery. Like in Balezer's Wall, we barely fight any grounded legions, and I think that was very intentional. I think like the pre-Stormblood stuff with the Garleans was very much designed to like dehumanize them because of just how much atrocity they commit and just how much they're about to humanize them all over again. Like the dehumanization is important so that they can be rehumanized. And we get this like message of like that message right after the like vengeance isn't worthwhile message of Heavensward and the lost messages of Heavensward. I think it's like really beautiful, because like any of us, and like this is a big theme in Stormblood, but any of us could have been Xenos. But like at this point, any of us couldn't be Xenos, because again, the Garleans are so removed from being seen as human. Like that was the intent of Balezer's Wall, which I really like. I think a lot of people never got back from that though. Well, they got the message.
I also think
and then they did.
Balezer's Wall was to kind of nail home how like ruthless Ilberd is, and I think actually it might be a little bit of a cop out, because Ilberd is a guy. He's not an institution. You know what I mean? A lot of times video games do this thing.
Yeah, I agree.
Do this thing where they make a guy villain, a villain who's human. When in real life, we all know that the real villains of the real world are usually institutions, and you know it's kind of. It's a little bit. Okay, maybe it's not a cop out. I think it's just a little bit of a simplistic way of understanding conflict, which is fine. It's a fantasy story. It doesn't have to be very complicated. But that's like, I thought it was just there to demonstrate that Ilberd is like a horrible, horrible person, an evil villain, and then like he dies at the end. So there's that too. And then like he sets all that stuff in motion. So all the stuff he sets in motion is now completely like independent of him because he's dead. He's out of the picture, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah.
It's become more like a force of nature than like the act of a human.
I know that Ilberd did nothing wrong is a bit of a meme in the fandom amongst like, I think obviously he did stuff wrong. Like when people say that, I would hope they're joking. I say it all the time as a joke. But his righteous anger was palpable, and it's palpable to me specifically. I think his motivations as a
villain are really, really interesting.
I would say like, after Yotsu and Fordola are only better villains because they get like so much screen time. Like I feel like if Ilberd's story wasn't like trapped in ARR and Heavensward writing, he would be a better villain than both of them. Which is very hard for me to say because I like Yotsu and Fordola so much, but Ilberd walked so Yotsu and Fordola could run, because all of their stories.
Such an interesting story because it really like I feel like it resonates. You know what I mean? Like he's like nobody cares about, you know, the country. He's like, you know,
that's how we feel when we talk about topics.
Yeah.
pertaining to racial things.
Pertaining to being non-white. It's really like, you know, he sees Raban as a sellout, you know, like a sellout to a foreign nation. And Ilberd is obviously like very proud of his, you know, like, you know, his heritage as an Alamig and his country. He's nationalistic. This is not a good thing. But
it's not a good thing I think it's not a good thing if you're from like a dominant culture, and obviously like cultures can be the non-dominant and then become the dominant culture later. But like the nationalism of the oppressed is obviously different than the nationalism of the oppressor.
I'm kind of the mind that all nationalism is bad. You are correct though.
Well, yeah, because we're all anti-state. Like, we're all as in like the two of us, but
like all nationalism is bad, and that's why I think it's really interesting that Ilberd's villainy stems from the fact that he has this nationalistic love for his country, for I don't think he loves the people of Alamigo anymore. He likes the idea of Alamigo. He doesn't like the people of Alamigo, and that's why he is so, okay with sacrificing people to get the country back.
Yeah. It's like it makes me think of like, I'm sorry, I do like participate in like some leftism in real life. Like I have friends who are like real life leftists, and like we do like charity and co-ops and stuff. And like 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 when I think about like my real life friends, like we do charity events, we do we've done like we've helped people who are striking, we've done stuff like that, right? You go to protests. But then when I think about like leftists I know online who and like no shade to you because you just said you're an online leftist, but like there are some people, and it's not just leftists, like I think people on the right also do this. I think liberals also do this. Like I think almost anybody except centrists do this, because centrists don't fucking stand for anything. But anyone who stands for anything politically, like you can be prone to falling into being too into the ideology. Leftism, for example, and even right-wing ideology, like it's about something, right? Like I can only really truly speak about leftism because that's where my experiences are. But like leftism, the basic tenet of it is improving people's lives and being good to one another. But I see so many like leftists just like trying to ruin each other's lives.
Lack
in the name of ideology.
In the name of ideology. And I think Ilbert is actually he's
I mean, that's the problem with capitalism, right? That's
it
like
is. And I think it's super interesting that Ilbert is like this, because Ilbert's like actual motives, I'm pretty sure most of us can sympathize, because he's from an occupied country and he wants to get it back, and he feels that
Okay, most of the people listening to this probably can't sympathize. However,
empathize.
Or no, they can sympathize.
Okay, well,
they can't
fine. Empathy
empathize.
is fine. I if you empathize with this, I appreciate you.
Yeah,
but it's like
Yeah. I'm literally from a colonized
exactly.
country, so Ilbert did nothing wrong.
But, like, you know what I mean. Like, it's, I think his motivations are very interesting. It's just that, he's gone so far as to hurt innocent people to try and fulfill that ideology, I guess.
Yeah, and I think, like, my ideology personally is we should always value taking care of people and protecting people and improving their lives over like anything. Like if it makes like there are some people, right? Like I would say I'm not an anarcho-communist, but I'm like relatively anarcho-communist, right? Now say there's some sort of like leftist like event going on in my city, right? Like say we're doing like a fucking like food growing thing. Like, oh, we all like plant, like we work in like a very large garden and we like make food and we donate it to like the poor. Like this is something I've done before, right? So it's like, here, this is like an example. And say there are like tankies there. Say there are tankies there, say there are liberals there. Tankies are like, like Stalinists and shit. And liberals are, well, liberals. Like, but say they're just there like participating because they want to help people. But then I go online and I'm like, there was a Maoist at today's thing. And like, say someone says to me, like, they're like, oh, well, you're a shitty leftist and I'm disavowing you and fuck you and I'm gonna talk shit about you because you were like hanging out with a Maoist or with a liberal or something. It's just like I'm not endorsing their ideology. And I don't think this applies in every case. Like say we're hosting a podcast and then we fucking platform like a right winger. That would be fucked up. So but like again, like I've been to those like Christian church like charity events. And, like, I don't agree with a lot of churches, but, like, I was living in Texas, and where else do you go and do charity events? I like doing charity! Oh my god!
Wait, I like how the implication here is that we're calling Ilbert, like, an online leftist who cares more about, loyalty to ideology.
Okay, I know that's funny. That's funny because that's what applies to us, but, like, Ilbert is more, like, the real-life version of it.
Yeah, I get it. Like, someone who's more, like, chained down to, like, loyalty to ideology, or not even like loyalty to a label, I guess.
Ilbert is no coward. Like he could have just written a call-out post for Raban, but instead he went and sacrificed a bunch of young people.
Like I think everyone could everyone could learn a lot from Mr. Ilbert here, and I think internet arguments would be less shitty. Joke! It's a joke!
that's a joke, but what I'm serious about right now, I'm gonna do a little bit of moral plugging. Participate in charity. If you're listening to this podcast, you're probably a really cool person who can handle nuance. But if you're listening to this podcast and you're in a place where you can participate in any form of charity, either do like an hour of charity work this week or like donate a little bit of money. Like, you know, just a little bit, like an hour's equivalent. Like, I know we haven't put up any way to like support our podcast on this, but if you enjoy our podcast, donate like $5 to your favorite charity or something, like right now. Ding. I would appreciate it. That's a lot better than like anyone sending us money for support. So we're fine. Yeah. So anyways, that was Ilbert. So yeah,
I like talking about
he sacrifices
like himself. As a character. So
I do too. We'll talk about him more in Stormblood cast going forward because we're just talking at the events right now. But he was like a really good villain. He was as an individual. I don't think he was a really like interesting villain, but I think ideologically he was one of the more interesting ones. Like he wasn't that cool as like a person. Like as a person, he was. I mean, and I think he suffered from.
I guess I like lump in like ideology with characterization. Because, like, he had a clear purpose.
I wanted him to be better,
It's kind of like Rabon's foil.
Yeah. There's just some parts where he's so over-the-top evil, and he seems to be reveling in it. It just seems so, like, abjectly, like, antithetical. I want to say it seems antithetical, but then I think about,
I was like, haven't you met people like this online?
People? And I'm like,
people like this online.
Yeah. And I know people who were like this online, and then when I met them in real lives, they were like cowards. Or like, I've met the other way around, where they're like really nice people in real life, and then they're huge dicks on the internet. I am specifically referring, this person is not listening to this podcast because they don't know anything about Final Fantasy or anything, but if they somehow ever end up listening, they will absolutely know who I'm talking about. Is like somebody I know in real life. And we like did like charity stuff together, but their ideology, they're also leftist, but they're fucking whack. Sorry, tankies are whack. Sorry. But I will happily participate in a soup kitchen with you if you're a tanky. Because I think the internet just like, it creates this layer of abstraction that makes it easy for people to be mean. And that's why people like say, and honestly, fiction also adds that layer of abstraction that allows people to be really reductive about ideology. And that's why people can say, unironically, Ilbert did nothing wrong. Or people can say, like Xenos deserved to be abused as a child for the things he did as an adult. Or people can, this is like discourse I've heard. Or people can unironically say, like, Yotsu deserved to be sexually abused. This is a legit thing that I saw. This is a legit take that I saw.
Please don't tell me you actually saw that. Oh my god. No way.
Yeah, I was in a fucking chat room, and somebody.
No, I'm actually shocked. I'm sorry.
We were in like a chat room, and we were like discussing Under the Moonlight, and like what happened was the person said that her parents were into sexual slavery.
Oh my god!
Like that should have happened.
I'm like sorry. Yeah. I'm like actually like, I'm very shocked. What the fuck?
I was also shocked, but like. That's how people can say, because you wouldn't say that about a real person to somebody's face. So it's like, and I understand fiction is fiction. Like, I very much adhere to that. Like, that's why I can enjoy Xenos. If Xenos was like a real person who like killed real people.
Right, like, obviously nobody who dies in Final Fantasy died in real life. But, like, there are people who, you know, like, some of these experiences are like experiences people have in real life. Yeah, I think that layer of abstraction, I don't know, the way people interact with abstraction is interesting to me. And it's sad in some cases, really cool in others. But back to Ilbert. We just pausing really briefly to say we might hit 2 hours. That's fine. But anyway, so Ilbert, he dies, and then Shinryu is summoned, and I don't remember the rest of it. Oh right, Papalimo. Papalimo. Sorry, Mr. Papalimo, I forgot about you. I'm so sorry, Papalimo. You got fucking nothing. He didn't, yeah. Like, it could have been more interesting, like, tying into Lisa's storyline, because, you know, she was kind of hiding behind him. But that kind of, like, never really got brought up. He kind of felt like he got forgotten by the narrative as soon as he died. Like, he was, like, Luisa's pupil, and he's, like, you know, Shinryu is, like, what people from Authored called Bahamut.
So Shinryu is born from Ilbird's rage. I think that's interesting. Shinryu was born of pure rage. Every other primal up until that point was born of faith. I think that's interesting. And Shinryu has a lot less personality than every other primal. I thought that was cool. Also, Shinryu's fake. Like, okay. Obviously, the other ones are fake too, but, like, they're all worshipped by beast tribes. They're either worshipped by beast tribes or they're, like, mythologized historical figures. Like, I don't think it would be an exaggeration to compare, like, Shiva in the Final Fantasy universe, comparing her to, like, Joan of Arc or King Arthur. Like, heavily mythologized, but was a real person. And so, like Shinryu, he's a human myth. Because, like, the Tsukuyomi and Susanoo, they're Kojin gods. So they're like, he is a kami that, like, people in, like, the Far East, like, believe in. And he doesn't exist, like, there's, you know, it's, like, the first god that was summoned that, like, actual, like, I don't want to say beast tribes aren't people, but, you know, the only non-beast tribe primal that I can think of.
I remember when the whole Shinryu stuff going down, people thought he was going to summon, like, Ralger or something, which would have been insane. But they didn't do that.
That would have been insane. But because, like, okay, when that happened, I was like, it kind of sucks that he didn't summon Ralger. However, with the stuff, both between the stuff with the Convocation and the stuff that the next 24 man is going to cover, I'm fine with them holding out. Yeah, I think they're going to do something with it. So I'm like, because if you look at the Convocation stuff, obviously Azim is Azima, and people have related Emmet Selg or Hades to Naldthal, and there's, like, a few others. Ralger gets related most often to Fandaniel.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, and I think that's really neat. Ralger the Destroyer, and then obviously Ralger was the god of the people that Xenos ruled over for a time, and Fandaniel Xenos over, you know, my theory crafting brain firing off on all synapses. So yeah, so Shinryu summoned, and Omega. Oh right, so Shinryu summoned, and I did like this part. Like, I think Papalymo's death didn't get. I think his death in of itself was really badass and cool. I just think that
there wasn't any follow up.
But like, oh my god, Ida wants to say, and then Papalymo's like, Thancred, and he looks back at Thancred, and, like, that part gets me emotional because obviously Thancred thought about Minfilia. Like, there's so many parts. Like, there's the thing with the Mana Lane, but then there's the thing with, like, now with Ida that, like, you know, Thancred's thinking about Minfilia, and I think it's really good setup to his Shadowbringers arc, because the idea is Thancred is projecting the idea of Minfilia onto Haurchefant and Ida. And he's relating to a Mana Lane in Papalymo. And, yeah, it's just like, whoa. And with Ida, it's even more blatant. Like, with Haurchefant, it was a little implicit, but with Ida, it's more blatant because we've heard him at this point refer to her as a sister, and they're both blonde-haired Alamegans. So, he carries her back onto the ship. And then Papalymo's like, what about you? And then you can choose to say, I'll stay or I'll go. And of course, like, the vocal decisions. Yeah, I picked I'll stay.
He's like, no, he, like, blasts her ass back.
Well, no, for a second it looks like you guys are gonna fight him together. But then he, like, blasts you back. Ugh, it was so good. Ugh, I really like that, like, moment. Like, I like it when the Wool loses agency, because so much of the story
doesn't really have agency a lot of the time,
I know a lot of people... Well, I mean physical agency, right? Because, like, I mean, obviously the Wool is just doing whatever people tell them to, so emotionally, they don't have agency. In terms of, like, what they're actually going to go about doing, they don't. But physically, the only times we have been hampered was when we were poisoned and when Papalymo blasted us back. So I'm like, woo! Oh, and when Xenos kicks her ass. Xenos and Emmet. But they're villains, so whatever. I guess the chick who poisoned us was also a villain. Whatever. Also, we forgot to say it way earlier, Mana Lane is now at Camp Dragonhead. Oh, right. That's where Haurchefant used to be. Very sweet. Very nice conclusion. Anyways, so we fly away on the airship, and then we're outside Bowser's Wall, and, like, the Archon tattoo on Ida's neck, like, vanishes. And she takes off her helmet, and she's like, actually, I'm Lys. And I feel complicated about this. I feel complicated about Lys. We'll talk about her more in Stormblood cast. But it felt a little stupid.
It did feel a little stupid, and also, my main opinion is that I thought her model looked a little dumpy, so, like, when she revealed her face, I was like, girl!
Yeah. I I like the follow-up to... Okay, with Papalymo, his death was cool, the follow-up sucked. With Lisa's reveal, the reveal sucked. The follow-up was pretty cool. We'll talk about that in Stormblood cast. And then we go to the Lotus stand, and my mic got really close to my mouth there.
Yeah, it was really loud.
You probably heard that. It was my headphone mic though, not my... not what... So you guys didn't hear it. I'm probably gonna cut this, actually. Anyways, so then we go to the Lotus stand, and we're all like, dude, Shinryu could cause a fucking calamity. He's as strong as Bahamut. Cause he's Bahamut. Everyone's like, oh god, what are we gonna do?
Oh my fucking god, I forgot about him.
He's like, did you know? And Sid, like, makes the stank eye at him. Even though they've done CT, so they're married.
No. CT was like the marriage counseling. They're still on the rocks.
Okay. So Nero's like, did you know the Alligans had a weapon? And if you hadn't done CT at this point, like I hadn't, then you're like, yo, who the hell are you? And he's like, oh, I'm and he says who he is anyways. Aymeric is there too. Oh my god, Aymeric is there. It's Aymeric and Connie Senna.
So many things are happening.
Like, Connie Senna's like, oh god, it could be another calamity, right? Because she was there at Cartno. She's like, oh god, like, she's freaking out. But, like, Americ's like, man, my job sucks shit. Like, it's so funny. Like, he's just, like, standing there not knowing what to say. And then Aymeric is like, who is this man? Like, everyone else, like, okay, Sid is shocked, the Wool is shocked. The Connie Senna is just still, like, freaking out about the calamity. Aymeric like, who is this strange man? And he's like, yeah, and Nero's like, why, I'm Nero Tolskaeva, chief engineer of the Ultima Weapon Project.
He brings that up Nero. As if that's that would have instantly make him the enemy of everyone in the room, which I think is really funny.
Yeah, like Connie Senna gives him the stink eye too at this point, if I'm remembering correctly. Like, everyone gives him the stink eye, except Aymeric. Like, Aymeric
doesn't know who this guy is, yeah.
Because obviously... Yeah, he doesn't know what Ultima Weapon is. Like, he's just, like, standing there.
I love...
And, that's why Americ's the only one who's talking.
Absolutely out of the loop Aymeric is. So funny.
Yes, it's so funny. Aymeric and Estinian function best as comedy characters, in my opinion. But yeah, Nero Tolskaeva, he's like, I don't know why I said his whole name. He's like, I'm here. My cock is huge. Alligans. And then you all go together. Like, that's like actually what happens. It's really good. It's really good. Oh, and then you go to the Allagan place. And it's really cute. He calls Omega Koaiko-chan.
Yeah, he does.
In the Japanese. That. It's very cute.
He's very, like...
And I think he also calls her, like, Hime-chan.
Because he's very, like, nerdy about, like, machines and stuff.
Yeah, he's an otaku. He's a machine otaku.
He's calling machines cute and stuff in Japanese.
Yeah, it's very cute. Like, Sid may be a machine genius, but Nero is a machine otaku. He's like, you can feel his, like, love for it. Like, he's, like, very legitimately, like, into this. And he does, like, an evil cackle, and he's like, fly free, my pretty. Okay, I knew the title of the quest, because the quest, you accept that you go to the lowest stand. It's called Fly Free, My Pretty, and I was like, oh, because Papalymo is letting
it's fucking...
Like, oh... But no, it's fucking Nero. It's fucking Nero talking.
The cognitive dissonance with like Papalymo just dying and then Nero
so
showing
funny.
up being Nero. So much.
One blonde for another.
Equivalent exchange.
Same brain power. Papalymo was like a smart guy, so. He's like just as smart and he's also blonde, but with so much more divorce.
Which is better. Sorry, Papalymo. You should have gotten divorced or something.
Yeah, he really should have.
He was barely a character. Okay,
so
sorry, Papalymo. That's why nobody like. That's why nobody.
Even though your death was badass,
nobody stands him. I guess because he's like 40 years old in LFL.
No,
but he's like
people stand him.
I'm right.
People stand him.
You're right, but he's like 40 years old in LFL, so he doesn't really have too many fans.
Yeah, I guess people stand, like, every character. Like, you can find stands for, like, even the most, like, non-existent characters, right. So. And Papalymo definitely has more character than, like, some characters that people stand. But, like, I understand, because, like, you can't stand him on the basis sex appeal. Yeah,
because he's a 40-year-old
LFL. Yeah. Yeah, even, like, the weird people can't, like,
no, I don't
want to think about the weird people. But So like, you know, like, but I think he's perfectly designed because of that, because he's just like a dumpy little
Also,
man.
he's like a funny voice.
Yeah, he does have a funny voice in both versions.
Like, I clearly thought he was gonna be like, you know, the comedy relief.
But I do think it's funny that we have him replaced with like divorce man with like cheekbones. Like, that is funny. He doesn't literally replace him, obviously, but it's just funny. So then we get the Omega versus Shinryu fight, and one of my friends called this like the PS3 melter, because apparently like lags really, and at this point I was playing on my laptop, and my laptop was really bad. Like, I play on a really good quality computer now, but my laptop also like I was getting 4 frames per second.
It was like fine for me. I don't know
I had to like
honestly.
The cutscene was very intense because it had a lot of particle effects, because there's this big like wave of particles from like one of the attacks, and then like Shinryu's whole like Shinryu and Omega's energy beams also were like very particle effect heavy, and particle effects take so fucking long to render. I would say like it takes me about 3 or 4 hours to render the videos for these. And that's because I use something similar to a particle effect. Like, generating particles is just so render heavy. Even more so in 3D. But the fight was really cool. The music fucked. Like, I love the little flute. Like, oh my god, can I just talk about the song? This is like the main Stormblood theme. But like, you get the quiet little... I also like how they turn it into like a nationalistic theme in the official Stormblood version. But this is the Worm's Tale. Go listen to it. And so you get this like delicate little... I don't think it's actually a flute. Like, I think it's like
at the beginning it's a string.
No, it's not. It's not. No.
Is this not the same theme that I'm thinking of? It's definitely a string at the beginning.
Hold on.
Okay.
We can cut this part out. The like pause, but let me just fucking... The Worm's Tale. Oh shit, that's so loud. Did my mic pick that up? Yeah, I'm gonna have to cut this out. Hold on. Oh, this isn't the Worm's Tale.
Yeah, I can correct him right now.
Oh, no, it is. Is it? Hold on. Yeah, it's not. The Worm's Tale is like the big dramatic part. Yeah, that's like the phase 3 of Xenos' fight. Shinryu theme. This part's gonna be a little strange to cut. Shinryu. It's Scale and Steel. Oh, that is violin. Hold on. I'm so sorry. I'm like listening to this so that I can comment on it a little better.
I like the violin at the beginning. I have friends who really don't, though.
I do. Okay. Like, I'm literally watching the cutscene right now, so I'm gonna comment on it. Okay. Oh god, I want to keep, like, listening to it, but I'm not going to, because I need to talk about it. Okay. So, what you have is you start with the violin. And I'm so sorry if you guys picked up any of that background noise where I wasn't talking, by the way. I don't know how much of this I'm gonna cut. But, okay, so you get the violin. The violin layers, there's horns, there's trumpets, it gets very majestic, and then it falls completely silent. And this is the part I'm talking about. Because the violins start, you know, Ida, she, like, slams her fist down on the Allegan thing, it releases Omega. We see Omega and Shinryu, like, going through, there's all the fog, and the fog also makes it very render-heavy. From a technical perspective, I was very impressed. And so, I like it when you nerd out about, like, how do I say, code? Like, when you nerd out about code, because you do that.
Do I?
Like, you nerd out about, like, mechanics and code and stuff. You do that sometimes. You've definitely done the first 3. And then I nerd out about, like, the visual production. Like, especially, like, the 3D. The 3D. Like, right now, that's what I'm nerding out about. And so, like, you get the, like, you know, the drama of Omega being released, and then Omega's released, right? And then it falls silent. Like, the music falls silent here. Really, really good fight directing. Completely silent. Then you get the, like, it's not a flute. I don't think it's a flute, but it sounds kind of like a flute. I think it's like a Middle Eastern instrument. I think so. And it's like, you know, it was like, wah, like that. I'm gonna replace what I just did with, like, the actual, like, sound. And so, it... And then it builds again. It rebuilds to where it cut off. Like, it builds up and then it gets even more. Like, there's so many layers of music, so many different instruments and, like, different sounds going on. But it's not chaotic. It's very structured. It all comes, it's, like, very orchestral. It's very beautiful. And then you get this big fight, and then, and then when it, like, you get all this build up, right? And that's while they're, like, powering up their, like, they fly through the sky, they fight each other, then you get the beams, and then there's, like, build up, and then, like, you get the close to the song, and it, like, happens, like, almost all at once with just a little bit of cut off. And that's when they fire the beams at each other. And it's like, okay, Omega has staved off a calamity. It hasn't contained Shinryu, but it's weakened Shinryu. We learn about this later at the end of Stormblood. Really cool, really fucking cool. And then we're going to Alamigo. Like, we have to now. Yeah. Like, there's no way we can't.
I guess they just had to give, like,
because we
to go to Alamigo.
Like, the implication was we were gonna go to Alamigo after ARR, but then the Bloody Banquet happened and Heavensward happened. Like, a lot of the build-up in ARR actually implies that we want to go to Alamigo, but there's other reasons we can't. From a technical side of things, Heavensward was not risky. Stormblood was incredibly risky. But also, I don't think Heavensward was that resource intensive. In terms of researching and developing that world, there's a lot more resources to develop that kind of aesthetic. Whereas the aesthetic of Stormblood would require, like, maybe not Doma, because obviously that's Japanese, but the Azim Steppe and then the Alamigo stuff would have taken so much research to develop. Because there's not as many resources for that kind of story. So I do think from, like, a production side of things, it was really smart to do Heavensward first. And from a narrative side of things, I think jumping from the very... Like, even if Stormblood had been totally different in coming right after ARR, I still think because we're going into occupied territory where we're really disempowered, I just think that it would have been too much tonal whiplash. I think Heavensward, for all of its ills and all of my criticisms of it, it was a really good bridge between the sort of campy, lore-driven ARR and the very, like, emotionally heavy, character-driven, and very dark Stormblood. Like, for all the, like, Papalimo's death and Nero's, reintroduction, I think both of these, like Harshafon's death, are important for lowering the tone, because it's fucked up that Papalimo's death doesn't do anything. Like, it literally seals Shinryu for, like,
it literally didn't do anything,
buys us a few hours of time. Well, no, it bought us a couple hours of time, because he was in, like, a cocoon, and that let us go see Nero. But, like, it did so little, and that's, like, that's introducing us to, like, the cost of war. You know?
I agree.
Like, Izael's sacrifice was the last big death we got before this. Izael's sacrifice did a lot for us. It basically made it so that the Garleans couldn't fuck with us. So it removed them as a plot point
straight up removed the plot point from Heavensward.
Yeah, which is good, because if we had to deal with the Garleans on top of the Ascians and the dragons, what would we fucking do? Heavensward would make even less sense, but we might not have gotten out of it alive. Like, maybe Regula and his guys would have, like, killed our guys before we could have gotten to Thornton in the first place. So, Shiva's sacrifice was meaningful. Harshafon's, in his mind, he was saving our lives. Papalimo's sacrifice did even less, and we're gonna see so many people make tiny sacrifices for just a centimeter of progress. And that is so fucking good. Like, the fact that Papalimo starts with it, like, oh my god, like, and it does darken it. And I would say, I know Nero's part is funny, and there's a little bit of tonal whiplash, but it introduces the sort of tonal whiplash of the character of Xenos E.A. Galvis, which I think is important. Because I say Xenos and Nero are kind of similar, because both of them have... With Xenos, it's more, like, in text, like, in universe. With Nero, it's meta. It's like, something we, the audience, will feel. Because he's always in silly mode. Whereas with Xenos, like, he goes between silly mode and his silly mode isn't like Nero's silly mode.
It would be insane if it was.
It's very different. He's just very prone to, like, acting insane and then acting, like, weirdly,
like, lucid.
Normal. And so, and the thing is like, Stormblood has a lot of black comedy in it. Like, a lot of, like, really fucked up humor. Stormblood and Shadowbringers both. They both have a lot of black comedy. The reason it feels not too jarring is because of this reintroduction of Nero. Like, Heavensward has some. ARR has some. But I think Heavensward was kind of dry in a lot of places, comedically. And a lot of the comedy is kind of light, like, oh, Izael likes Moogles and Estinian hates them. That's very, like, soft humor. But, like, Stormblood will have, like, Stormblood and Shadowbringers will straight up have jokes that involve, like, people's entire families died. Like, it's so strange. like there'll be, like, a panel where Xenos will be like, I will pluck your eyes from your skull, and you'll just get, like, a reaction from, like, another character where they just make the most, like, bewildered face. And, like, that's funny. But, like, it's still scary. And, like, again, that couldn't happen without Nero, because Nero is the black comedy king. If you've done Omega and CT, you'll know. He's, like, always, like, almost dead and purple, but it's fucking hilarious. So I think that was, like, an important part for tone shifting. And now we're done with Heavensward Based. I think. Yeah. Based. Ding. Do you have any thoughts on Void Ark or Alexander? I think you would have more thoughts than me because you actually rated.
I actually want to talk about Alexander, but we completely missed it. So Alexander kind of had a story. Everyone forgets this. Alexander had a story, and it's about a girl who I don't remember what the fuck she's trying to do at the beginning. So this should probably tell you how good the story was. Then again, I don't remember a lot of things, so this is not really, a good gauge of whether or not something was good or not. My memory of it, but basically the gist of it is that Alexander, by existing, is going to cause a calamity because he's such a powerful primal and he's draining the land around him. However, Alexander's, like, prime directive or something is to protect the world. So basically, Alexander has to commit suicide by wool. And in order to do this, he's, like, testing you, Alexander. Which I think is really interesting. And also there's, like, fucking gobbies in there. People at the time were, like, these fucking goblins, like, they didn't like them. They thought... Because we were coming off of Coil, right? They didn't like the goblins because they thought it made the tone too light and humorous, and when Coil was very, like, heavy and serious. And Coil kind of, like, commanded, like, respect, I guess. And people felt like Alexander was a bit...
Yeah.
Like, the first floors were a bit, like, the second floor of Alex is literally just, like, a gauntlet where a bunch of gobbies go around being like, Gobby toss! And they, like, throw bombs at you, and you're, like, running around little machines trying to, like, pull the bombs around, and it feels very, like, lighthearted. But the ending is actually interesting because the chick, I don't even remember what her motivation was in the first place, but the chick has to go back in time to literally start her own tribe with another guy. I don't remember what her motivation is. I'm so fucking sorry. All I can tell you...
I haven't played Alexander in 2 years. I thought I would have more to say about it.
All I can tell you is that the time travel stuff is interesting, and that people's initial perception of it was that it was bad. Like, the story. I can't say anything because clearly I don't fucking remember, so...
Maybe after I replay Alexander, because I'm gonna do that.
I thought it, like, kind of suffered from the same things that most of Heavensward did, which is, like, under animation, some, like, weird tonal...
it was definitely under animated.
Also gobbies, which people didn't like. I think they're fine, honestly, the gobbies. But, like, I remember people didn't like it at the beginning. But I think what sticks with me the hardest is the mechanics as flavor, which come out a lot in the last tier, where like, the last fight is you against Alexander. And he sends you back in time to prevent your own death so that you can, successfully defeat Alexander. Which I think is such an interesting concept. Because you see this in the cutscene, right? And there's a cutscene before, like, I think a couple floors before, where you get frozen in time and a goblin is going to fire a laser at you. Like, literally, will just kill you. And you're frozen, there's no way for you to escape. But suddenly you become unfrozen and you get to dodge out of the way. And it's not established how you became unfrozen until you do the last fight, because it's actually you, in the future, going back in time to disable the time lock on you so you can dodge out of the way. And if you fail this, you get to see you, like, inside, like, the stage where you're, like, going back to try and disable the time lock is, surrounding the stage in which you were in the cutscene, locked in time, and eventually, like, dodging out of the way. And if you fail a DPS check, you get to see the laser go off, which kills your past self in the middle, and then you just drop dead in the present. And I just think it's such an interesting concept for a mechanic. I really, really like it. That's just a normal. I didn't actually read Savage back then because Savage, was known to be very, very hard at the time. Like,
I did Savage, but I did it unsynced.
Yeah, me too.
So
yeah, like A8S was considered very, very difficult. I remember that, and it still is pretty hard actually.
And you were like in university,
yes.
right?
I
so
couldn't
you were
really
probably
read
like busy. Any thoughts about? I guess I don't really have thoughts about Alexander. I do remember it was the first part of the story where I actually cried because the stuff with Mide at the very end with
that's
her
what I was
partner.
talking about. I like it.
Yeah, I did cry, but I don't
yeah,
remember.
Same. It's
any
actually
of it
been
now.
so long that I just can't remember. So
yeah, it's
so
been
honestly,
2 years
like I
for
can't
me,
say whether or
and
not it's good or bad because I just don't remember. It wouldn't be fair to make a judgment. Void Arc was good.
Void Arc. I remember. Okay, I did Void Arc pretty recently, like a few months ago. It was pretty good. I like Leofard. I really like when we learned about his backstory.
Void Arc
it got me really emotional.
I guess you could call it
sexy.
like our only original raid series because Crystal Tower even is kind of like a throwback. Yeah,
Crystal Tower is FF3, and obviously Ivalice is
but
Tactics
like Ivalice and
then
Nier are like straight up like crossovers. So I kind of like accept Crystal Tower as Final Fantasy 14 original, but Void Arc is
Void Arc is
original,
like
and
original.
The reason why they stopped doing original ones is because people didn't seem to like Void Arc. People didn't seem to like
people
Void
didn't
Arc
like it,
which made me sad.
Which fucking sucks
because like
it seems that we're going back to original though.
Like I think
which is
like
good.
The Final Fantasy devs, they said before, I think they really plugged into player feedback. But honestly, sometimes player feedback is bad. That's my opinion.
Yeah, sometimes the audience doesn't know what they want, because I'm gonna be real. I didn't like the Ivalice raids, and I fucking love FF12. My name is literally Noah.
I didn't like the
FF12
Ivalice raids. I thought they were
Discord.
really hard to understand. But I didn't play the game.
I thought they were very
like annoyingly text heavy.
I thought so
too. Like now there's like this whole section of the world that doesn't really feel anything like Final Fantasy 14. It feels like whatever game it came from.
And okay, I love Nier Automata, and I've played it now, but when I played the Nier raids originally, I hadn't played the Nier raids, or I hadn't played Nier Automata.
I also think Nier Automata is integrated very poorly in it. Like, it had even less of a story than Ivalice, so there's that.
Yeah. But I'm gonna cry when I play it this time, because Nier Automata is good. We should do a Nier Automata episode. on our Final Fantasy cast.
But yeah, Void Arc was good. And I don't want to talk about Void Arc just in context of other raids, because it was good on its own. I think,
yes, it was good on its own.
It had the coolest.
NPCs. It was little. Well, yes, but Void Arc is like one of the coolest zones in like the whole game. Like like Dunscape.
I think it's cool. Also, there's some like nice black mage lore for people who are playing black mages. We don't have enough mage lore. More mage lore, please.
It gives us. Yeah, I like the like void sense stuff. Like it's cool. It's cool. I guess I don't have any like. I don't know, it's like, you go with a bunch of pirates to get, like, a treasure, and then you unlock this, like, this bigger than you story, which is very like,
very Final Fantasy.
It's a very, like...
Yeah.
Very Aladdin, almost. Like, it's very, like Hero's Journey, you go to get the gold, and then you get involved in something bigger, and you find, I think their name is, like, pronounced, like, Kaishi.
Yeah.
It's Kate Sith.
It's
Kate Sith. Like, one of my friends got,
Kate
like,
Sith.
mad at me. He was like, it's Kaishi. I'm like, no, it's Kate Sith. Kate Sith is dehydrated Swain.
I took damage.
Skinny
I took damage
Legend.
with that statement.
Skinny Legend. And Kate Sith and Leofard's interactions
also
are
the
fucking delightful.
Other chick, the pirate chick, she's good.
Yeah. Oh, she was so obviously
Was
the base for Yotsuyu. Like, so obviously. Like, the blueprint. Like, okay, I always say Asahi was the blueprint for Emmett Selk, because they have a few shared animations, and Asahi is one of the visibly most expressive characters in the game, and before Fandaniel was introduced, right, I figured Asahi would never come back, so I'm like, well, why did they give him, like, a custom face, and, like, all these custom animations, and make him so animated? And then, like, I played Shadowbringers, and I was like, oh,
I think the reason why they gave
right?
custom faces is because normal hair faces are ugly.
But like they do have shared animations. Like there's a few that only Asahi and Emmett use. Very interesting that Fandaniel comes back as like Emmett Silk like does this like slouch slump thing that Asahi also does. That's like the big one I think of. But there's a few others. But like I do think they were like testing how far they could push the engine with Asahi basically. And then they were like did Emmett Silk like more refined. And so when I saw this chick, she had like all these custom animations and like she made like expressions that were very similar to ones Yotsuyu did, right? So I'm like, oh, so she's just like the tester for Yotsuyu. This is my like tinfoil hat theory about the development.
We cannot
right?
confirm
that like they like try something out in like content where it won't matter as much so that they can like implement it in more important scenes later. Although I don't think that's like a stretch. I don't think that's a stretch. They might not do it on purpose. Because,
you know what I mean? They might just reuse stuff that they figured out before.
Because like when I did the live 2D stuff, we would have like shitty little NPCs who would show up for like one storyline. And like sometimes we test animations on them and see how like players would like respond to them and then like use that kind of animation but in our like main characters. So that's like what I'm going off of, you know. So anyways, but Void Ark was like a simple story. Like I think as far as the actual story structure was, it was very simple, but it was very lore heavy. And I know I complain about stories being lore driven, but I don't mind Void Ark being lore driven because
Void
even though
Ark
Void Ark was like a simple story, it was very
This is kind of
it was emotionally effective,
AR, which is also very like lore driven. Is that Void Ark had good characters?
Yeah, like I don't think it's hard to say Leofard was like a better character than any of the major characters in ARR. Like again. He had a simple story, but he had like a memorable way of speaking, and he had a simple but effective backstory that tied back into Ishgard really well. And he was a fucking pirate, and he gives you oh my god, I get so sentimental
like a little, like,
anytime. Yeah, and that's like really sentimental. And he's like very playful with you. That's also important. And I think also like it being in Heavensward is important because Dragon Song and post Dragon Song are so depressing. But Leofard is like good natured and it's just like this fun side adventure
is that
you go
the
on.
The whole time I thought he was just
between.
an Elzen because I was looking at his body and his like animations. But I didn't notice that his ears were round.
That's so funny. My god. He's very sexy too. He is. He's very sexy. He's cool. I like him. Leofard really carries Void Ark. Leofard and Kate
I don't remember the story of Void Ark, but I can say it's good because Leofard was in it.
Okay, like Kate Sith has this like very like formal way of speaking, and then of course like Leofard is like a fucking pirate, and they like butt heads. They butt heads, but then at the end of the day, they like work together and are friends, and you beat the bad guys together. It's very campy and it's very fun. I like it. It's just fun. And then I would say like Alexander and Void Ark both do this like here's a lot of lore, here's like a cool plot point, here's Alexander specifically is like here's some callbacks to other Final Fantasy games, here's some wacky stuff, here's some serious stuff, and in the end I think both of them were like good for Heavensward, you know, good for Heavensward.
Heavensward was good for an MMO.
Like I do like Omega.
I don't like Omega
a lot.
That's because
more.
I didn't
Don't
also understand any of the references being made in Omega. I am not a fan of anything that references anything outside. Even like Nier, which I did like and play Nier, and I got all the references in Nier, but I don't like them because I feel like it makes for bad writing.
I like Omega because
I understand
Sid Nero. I'm gonna try to replay it before Stormblood cast, but we'll see. Yeah. So Warring Triad.
Okay.
Let's go over that really briefly.
No.
Do you remember it?
I also haven't done it for 2 years. Okay. Game, which plays when you're fighting Regula. And it comes back a few times after that.
Yeah.
Sickest theme in the game. Unukalai. That's it.
Well, like, we go to Azizla, and, like, there's, like the Alligans, like, were, like, holding primals or something.
Yeah.
And they got, like, released. Like, that's basically what happens.
He does.
Regula dies. If you don't do Warring Triad, you don't know he's dead, which I think is really funny. Because I have seen people who haven't done Triad be like, well, why doesn't Regula come, like, interject what Xenos is doing? I'm sorry to tell you this. I don't know how to tell you this. But... so there's that. Unuclei is like important later on.
He takes a very long time to be important, but he has his own quest now. He's like, you can bring it back to the first. He's got a whole quest line.
What is important about Unuclei? He's a warrior of light, right?
From the first. He's from the 13th, yeah.
From the 13th. Yeah, and the 13th is a void because of Iggy We learn it's because of Iggy later on. But the 13th is like that's where the void center from, right? And Unuclei is from there, and Elidibus
saved him and also like dressed him like that. And for a while I was like, why did he dress him like that? And then we did like Shadowbringers, and it turns out they all just wore that, and I was like, oh my god, he dressed him like that. He doesn't know what fashion is.
That's so funny. Oh my god. But yeah, it was the Sephiroth theme has led to a lot of very unfunny Final Fantasy VII jokes. So Warrentriad actually sucks. I'm kidding.
No, Warrentriad was good because Sophia.
Warrentriad, I remember. Okay, lesbian.
Well,
it's okay. Stormblood was good because Xenos has huge boobies.
Okay.
So, Coil was good because Niall had huge boobies. We can agree on that. And
yeah, I think that's great.
Like, what else could you even want in a woman?
What else would you want in a wife? Big boobies and she's like a dragon trying to kill you.
Yeah, truly. Well, isn't that also
I'm gonna kill you! Stop.
Anyways, so like I think yeah, Triad was I just remember it kind of being fun. Triad, and like I'm sorry that we're kind of like flaccid with the raids and the side content because like there's not a lot to talk about. Like none of it was like deep, right? And the events were like brief. Like we could go through it event by event, but like I just feel like it's very meaningless and it was so long ago that we played them.
I just remember them being fun and enjoyable.
And the thing is, like the reason we talk about Void Ark a little more is I think Void Ark contributes more to the general themes of Heavensward, whereas the other raids don't. I guess they kind of do, but like not as much. Whereas like I think the Shadowbringers, I
like the drama in Void Ark because Eden, the drama is that the guy's half Elven, which I always like those kinds of stories. So
yeah. Like Eden, we can't talk about Shadowbringers without talking about Eden, basically. And I don't think any other raid series has that impact. I guess Coil kind of does. And CT, we did talk about CT, but like, I think for the most part, the raids and the side stuff is kind of removed from. So we can't really, like whether we're going to talk about Four Lords or not. I have to play.
What?
I haven't done it yet.
Oh my god, do it.
Yeah, I never did Four Lords. So we'll talk about that when we get there. But yeah, so that was Heavensward. Despite I had a lot more to say about it than I expected to. A lot more good.
Yeah. I think that's why it sucks that, that it wasn't as good. That it wasn't as good as
it turned out that way. Yeah, it could have been, like, I don't even think it was good. Like, I mean,
I liked
Lee
it.
thinks
I'm not
it's
saying it was
good.
good,
That's
actually.
fine.
I'm
that's
saying
her
it was
prerogative.
Enjoyable. I'm not saying it's good as literature.
Interesting.
Because I have
there is a difference
that I think is really enjoyable, and I don't know if I would call it good literature.
That's how I feel about a lot of fan fiction. But no, I get what you're saying. Yeah, it wasn't enjoyable for me either. Like, it was kind of miserable. Like, that's why I like look back on it with so much disdain, is because the literary problems that Heavensward has were just too glaring for me to enjoy them. So that's just me though. But yeah, that was the Heavensward cast. Thank you guys so much for listening. Do you have any closing statements?
No,
Lee?
This is very long, and the next one's gonna be longer.
This was very long. Yeah, we are going to be splitting up Stormblood into 2, maybe 3 parts.
We have a lot to say.
So yeah, we do have a lot to say. I mean, we've been bringing it up.
You need to do Four Lords. We want to talk about it.
Okay. I'll do it before we do the 3rd episode of Stormblood cast, and we'll talk about it then. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. I would really appreciate it if you gave this video a like, if you subscribed, if you commented anything that you want us to talk about in the Stormblood cast. We will look at your comments. We will read them. We will discuss them if you guys have anything.
Give me something to discuss.
To say. We really appreciate.
I don't remember anything about the story, so if you can give me something to discuss.
But yeah, thank you guys so much. We will see you next week. Bye.